Kel. Let's try this again. Nope. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all at least hear me? I know. Yeah, we're back, but we're having the same exact problem. There is no headphone jack. What up, Shelby? I'm trying to set everything to the same. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. One sec. Why are you playing music on my channel when I'm trying to turn the fucking... Okay. Like I said, it works when we're not live, and then as soon as I go live, it mutes the audio from TV. Like when I press play here, nothing's coming out of my TV like it should be. And now we've got, audio overlay, which is why I had that muted in the first place.
I want to make sure that it's actually not muted at all. And now what you can do is you can open like a Chrome tab and open a YouTube video. If you still don't hear anything and it still doesn't like capture anything, what you can do...
Parts of the world.
Alright, there's some progress. We're getting there. Now let's change one thing at a time. Let's start with the very bottom. Monitor only. Hello?
Rice systems.
Okay. We're making progress. change that back to what it was, and now let's try something up here. Digital audio. Monitor only. Hello?
Main grain. In fact, food staple for nearly
No. Well, if anybody ever needs to do this themselves, at least you know who to go to.
native to Asia, consumed for thousands of years.
Well, that.
You can maybe just fix your echo.
Hello? Now there's still an echo.
Just by doing this, if it's on yours. So what you do is you just want to go ahead, close this off, and now you can actually stop hearing echo. But if you still have that problem, what you can do is you can go over to settings. You want to go over to audio, and on audio go over to mic device 1 and select the specific mic that you want to use. And if you keep it on default, guys, what's going to happen is it's just going to switch through some random microphones that you have connected to your PC. For example, your webcam, your headphones, and stuff like that. Always use the specific one that you want to use and click on done. And now you can
Now. Whoa, I don't have an echo anymore.
But today, machines do much of the harvesting and processing in order to feed the enormous demand.
Okay, we got it. Okay, we got it. That worked, didn't it? That was it.
I've been getting paid $1,000.
Figured it out. Okay, so for anybody who wants to know, or anybody who wants to remember if that ever happens again, that was an audio settings. Audio settings. There should only be one auxiliary device. Only one auxiliary device. Make sure everything still works. This is me doing this. Yep, okay. Cool. That's ridiculous. Why is that so hard to do? Oh god, okay, yeah, I mean, at least we got it. Now we need to find that one video we were watching. Oh yeah, can't I just go to history? Where the fuck is control your music, show side panel.
That buying fake IDs wasn't that big of a deal these days, or maybe he just got overconfident that Silk Road could never be traced again. Either way, Gary felt this whole thing was suspicious. Now, of course, all these different details still weren't conclusive evidence Ross Ulbricht was the creator and owner of Silk Road. But here's the thing, other important details about the case hadn't been shared with Gary. To be honest, nobody expected this IRS agent would crack the case that other agencies had been working on for over 2 years, so they hadn't bothered to fill him in on recent developments. You see, whilst Gary had been doing this research, the FBI had managed to find out the IP address of the server Silk Road was hosted on. Using that IP address, they managed to find out the server was hosted in a data center in Iceland, and by working with the Icelandic authorities, the FBI were able to infiltrate the Silk Road server. Now, as for exactly how the government found the server's IP address in the first place, that's a bit of a controversial issue. Some believe the NSA had some involvement and used an illegal spying tactic that would have infringed on Ross's Fourth Amendment rights. However, the government denied this, and said the way they were able to get access to the server was because of vulnerabilities in Silk Road's code.
Yeah, multiple auxiliary devices in settings.
Because as we've already established, Silk Road's code had plenty of problems.
There should only be one.
Quickly it had been developed by Ross.
There can only be one.
Either way, now that the FBI had tracked down the Silk Road server in Iceland, it could access a lot of crucial data. Most importantly of all, it could see activity on the server, like whenever the Silk Road admin logged in or out. The logs showed the most recent admin login had come from an internet cafe in San Francisco. Whilst this was a major breakthrough, the FBI still didn't have any leads on who the hell Dread Pirate Roberts actually was. And that's when they got a call from Gary at the IRS. Gary got on a group call with agents from other departments working on the case, like the DEA and FBI, and he laid out everything he found. Gary explained that this person with the username Toy was the first one to mention Silk Road online.
Needed a rip after
and
that.
Multiple posts
yeah.
Forums, almost like he was promoting the site again.
Step ahead of you. The question now is it quiet? Is it quieter than it was yesterday? Because now that it's a little bit quiet, but it's more clear. Oh, hello. You coming up? Okay, come on. I'm not gonna mess with anything. I'm just looking at the volumes and such. What up, Mia? It's a little quieter. but it's more clear. See, but I don't want you to have to, I want you to still be able to turn it up a little bit. Lucy, quit licking me, please. Well, now that we can YouTube it, we can look at it together. Also, somebody's gonna have to come out from Spectrum on fucking Wednesday because I'm not getting internet speeds like I should be. What was it? Mic sensitivity on Streamlabs. Advanced stream mic settings. Is there advanced settings for Streamlabs? I thought I was already in advanced settings for Streamlabs. Wait. Well, that wasn't it. Fuck you and your music. Suck my big old.
Hey stream, how's my audio sounding? Is it any good?
Mic placement is one of the biggest mistakes people make on stream, but that's absolutely not the only thing we're going over, because we're going over 6 things to upgrade your stream's audio quality. First of all, we are going over mic placement because it depends on the type of microphone you have. Second of all, we're gonna make sure that we remove things like your keyboard sound while you're not talking, so people don't hear you clicking while you're just playing your game. We're also gonna reduce the apply effects to it. Step number 1 is making sure you can hear your microphone so you can know if you're applying the right effects. So click on this settings icon right here in the mixer, and then next to your microphone, changing monitor off to monitor and output or monitor only, doesn't matter if you're not streaming. And right now I can hear my microphone. Okay, let's close this. Now click on the settings icon next to your microphone and then go to filters. Right here we can click on the plus icon, and these are all the filters that we can add, and I'm going to tell you which ones you should add, in which order, and how you need to set them up. First thing is the gain filter, and you can use this if your microphone is way too quiet. If you're talking really loud, and let me reduce this, and your microphone volume level looks like this, it doesn't go further, then it's way too quiet and you need to add some gain or boost to recording.
Okay, I will do that then. Thank you. I already forgot how I did that. Oh, ADHD brain, why do you do that to me?
Well, looks like this, it doesn't go further, then it's way too quiet and you need to add some gain or boost to recording level. Okay, let me move it back like this. So if your microphone is way too quiet, before adding gain in Streamlabs OBS, right click on your Windows sound settings and then go to sounds. Then go to the recording tab, look for your microphone.
Okay, hang on, let me do the first thing that he said first.
Well, looks like this, it doesn't go further, then need to set them up. First thing is the gain filter, and you can use this if your microphone. Okay, let's close this. Now click on the settings icon next to your microphone, changing monitor off to monitor and output or monitor only, doesn't matter if you're not streaming. And right now I can hear my microphone. Okay, let's close this. Now click on the settings icon next to.
Okay, the one that's next to the fucking thing. Ugh. Honk. They are doing just fine. Thank you very much. Edit filters, add a filter, and add some gain to it. Can y'all, how about now? Wait, hang on. Filters, edit filters. I'm turning you all the way up. All right. Oh, that's too high. That's too loud. I can already tell. That's going all over the place. Let's go 15. What about that? Now we're getting up into the areas that we were the first time. Good? Okay. What about when we have the torch on? Go a little higher. Let's go 20. Fuck it, 20.4 then. Okay, suck my ass. Good? Good like that? Let's try it with the torch on. That's good. Can y'all hear me over it still? I don't want it peaking out the entire time. I'm gonna go a little bit lower. I don't want it in yellow the entire time. Whatever, it's gonna be in yellow the entire time, but I think in the middle, yeah, there's perfect. I think that's good. Let's try it with this at the same time.
Look out, and on one of his later posts, including his personal email, rusoverg@gmail.com. Gary then went on to explain how on Stack Overflow, you had posted a coding question related to the tool under the name Ross Ulbricht, and then a minute later changed the name to the pseudonym Ross.
Obviously,
at that exact moment, one of the other agents on the
obviously with everything, I'm gonna have to yell Obrit. I'm trying to. Can you still hear me if I'm louder than everything?
Why are you focusing on that part?
If I talk louder than everything, can you still hear me?
He found that both the server and the computer that belongs to DPR had both been given the same name, Frosty.
Because obviously, I'm not gonna do that. I want my voice is gonna end up being the loudest thing, anyways. But if that ends up happening, and I have to be like, okay, hang on, let me turn some stuff down, then. Cool. Yeah, that's just in case. That's like, oh shit, hang on. Why is that so loud? Let me turn this down real quick. We got it though. We're learning. Alert box, video capture device. We got our fucking microphone settings. You can do gain. See, but what's interesting is that we didn't have to put a filter the first time. Whenever we first did it, there wasn't a filter on it, so there's probably a setting in there to where we can just turn the whatchamacallit up, the sensitivity up, but I'm not gonna mess with it. If it's working, I'm not gonna fuck it. I'm not gonna fucking touch it. If it's working now, I'll do more later, but until I actually learn more about what I'm doing, so long as it functions, right? So long as we're back to where we first started. Yeah, it definitely is a learning process. Sorry, live chat. Live chat is what we're supposed to be on. I wasn't, was I? Good night, Sky. That was ridiculous. I mean, I'm learning something every single time we start a new stream, at least. It's not necessarily the way I want to learn how to do this stuff. There we go. Wait, no. I don't want this stuff here being this table. Okay, cool. Oh man. Alright, we're back. Oh shit, this has been playing the entire time, hasn't it? Have y'all been able to hear? Y'all haven't been able to hear this, right? Y'all didn't know this was playing in the background, like me, right? We're all aware of the same stuff right now. Okay, good. See, and look, now I don't have to wait for y'all to respond to questions because I set the latency again. I set the latency to super low latency and there's no delay on the stream anymore. We have 0 stream delay now. Yeah, I'm seeing it all. I might want to add a little bit of delay. Might want to add a little bit of delay so I can go back and see myself. But the only thing I ever really want to do for that is whenever I'm flexing or whenever the dogs do something cute. And I'm like, oh shit, I wonder if y'all saw that. Now I won't be able to know if y'all saw shit. That's okay. I'd rather have immediate chat. What up, Lewis? I'd rather have immediate chat than a potential for me to go back and watch whatever just happened. Because that's only every now and then. I look at chat a lot more than that ever happens. So unmute this, turn this way down.
Viez perhaps wasn't quite the criminal mastermind they thought. He made several major
We'll try to match
mistakes.
this to like a little bit lower than my own voice. Oh god, my own voice.
Exposed his true identity. His downfall was simply because of human error. This was a guy in his 20s who never expected Silk Road to become what it did, and thus hadn't taken enough care to cover his tracks. Or, as Gary would say, this was the digital equivalent of the parking ticket.
Good.
A minor detail that had been overlooked. Either way, the authorities finally knew that Ross Ulbricht was the one behind Silk Road. Now, they just had to catch him. But, surprisingly, that wasn't going to be as easy as you'd think.
That was so hard, but I mean, I'm glad we did it.
The
We figured it
FBI
out.
signed a team of undercover agents to track Ross.
That shit was
and watch his
annoying.
every move. Because they had access to the Silk Road server logs now, they can literally see when the Silk Road admin went in or out. And it always coincided with when Ross opened or closed his laptop. It was undeniable he was their guy. So why weren't they rushing in immediately to arrest him? Well, you see,
Look, sort of like a fucking. Look, we're about to boomer. We're about to boomer this new age multi-$1,000 setup. You want to see? You want to see this? There's definitely an easier way for me to do this, but look, I want y'all to see this video. It's like when your mom shows you a meme. But yeah, I want y'all have to see that. It's a very important video. Damn, that chat's coming in quick. I like that. I like that a lot. It's gonna take me a sec to get used to that because I was waiting like a solid 10 seconds before I was like, oh shit, those are answers to the question I just asked, right? Now I know that's exactly. What up, Ethan? So fast, yeah. We're. It's almost like we have a nice, expensive setup or something now that I can know how to optimize the shit that I've been trying to do. At least this stuff is not as obvious as the other things, like just restarting the camera or something. Yeah, it'll do much better with my ADHD. That's a great point. Wait. Oh, that's the audio. I was like, this is doing something red over here. Why? I saw red on the screen, and I was like, we shouldn't. I don't want to see red on the screen. Yeah, do much better with my ADHD because the topics or the things that I'll just say will be answered almost immediately. Half the time, y'all be commenting shit, and I'd be like, what the fuck are you saying? And then y'all are like, oh, I'm just answering what you were just asking us. I'm like, oh, I totally did ask y'all a question.
he needed to catch him with his laptop open. That laptop contained all kinds of valuable data.
Gotta show this off
Including
again
one
if y'all hadn't
Ross,
seen
also
the
tracking down other people who
the
work
new
on
mouse.
Silk Road or big dealers on the sites. But if
Very
a team of
fancy,
agents just
very
suddenly
nice.
swarmed in to arrest Ross, he would likely have time to close his laptop lid, which would lock
LGBT
and
mouse.
all the data was encrypted and near impossible to break into.
And it's
Thus,
very,
if
very
they didn't catch
smooth and
Ross literally
responsive.
sitting at his laptop, it would give him some kind of deniability. So they had to catch him red-handed with the laptop open.
I know, Jay, I've noticed that y'all are making your sentences longer to add more detail, but now you don't have to. I'll be able to remember what we were just talking about. And listen to the clicks. Listen to the clicks of this thing.
In front of him, so
That's a
he
nice
could
click.
prove he was responsible. When Ross
And
went-
all the buttons do that. I have hotkeys on the side and the top now that I can change, but the side buttons click like that too. And I think that is real nice. Uh-oh.
That buying fake IDs wasn't that big of a deal these days.
Yo! Those go forward and back.
This whole thing was suspicious. suspicious. And of course, all these
Nice.
different details still weren't conclusive evidence Ross Ulbricht was the creator and owner of Silk Road.
That's how you go forward and back on the web page, and I can set those to be different things most likely. Worst case scenario, if like a copyright song pops up, I wanna. What does this do? What does this button do? Just crashes the whole computer.
But here's the thing.
Worst case scenario, I can just back the page up, but I want this top button. What is this? What is clicking to? Oh yeah, that's that. That's typical. I want. There's a little button on the top of it right here. Boop. Was that a coincidence? That's not a coincidence. I was like, yeah, hang on. But yeah, that just changes the color for a sec. It doesn't stay that color. Why doesn't it stay that color? That's funny. You know, I know it's wild. When I show it to the screen, you can see the lights fluctuating, right? Through every setting, right? But when I look at it, it's not doing that. The camera has a higher frame rate than my eyes, y'all. It changes the lights, but it doesn't stay on that setting. Look, it changes back immediately. There's a way to set it. There's obviously a way to change those settings too, but I would like to change this to a mute button. Y'all know how often I mute the shit instead of clicking this to pause it? Well, I guess I'd rather pause what we're watching instead of muting it so it picks back up in the same. Yeah, okay. We're learning. We're learning.
Details about the case hadn't been shared with Gary. To be honest, nobody expected this IRS agent would crack the case that other agencies had been working on for over 2 years, so they hadn't bothered to fill him in on recent developments. You see, whilst Gary had been doing this research, the FBI had
Marley, you
managed to find out the
stinky.
IP address of the server.
I can smell your ears from here,
Using
stinky
that
baby.
IP address, they managed to find out the server was hosted in a data center in Iceland, and by working with the Icelandic authorities, the FBI were able to infiltrate the Silkworth server. Now, as for exactly how the government found the server's IP address in the first place, that's a bit of a controversial issue. Some believe the NSA had some involvement and used an illegal spying tactic that would have infringed on Ross's Fourth Amendment rights. However, the government denied this and said the way they were able to
Of
get
course
access to
the
server
government
was because
denied
of
this.
vulnerabilities in Silkworth's code, which leaked the server's IP address. This is definitely possible, because as we've already established, Silkworth's code had plenty of problems because of how quickly it had been developed by Ross, who had initially been working on it all by himself. Either way, now that the FBI had tracked down the Silkworth server in Iceland, it could access a lot of crucial data. Most importantly of all, it could see activity on the server, like whenever the The logs showed the most recent admin login had come from an internet cafe in San Francisco. Whilst this was a major breakthrough, the FBI still didn't have any leads on who the hell Dread Pirate Roberts actually
Oh, you know what I just realized, and what would be pretty cool, and what I can do eventually once I figure out how it all actually works, is. Nah, just kidding. I was gonna say make it to where I play whatever's playing on the TV through the phone audio, or through the video audio, so you can hear this playing over the torch sound and the fan sound, but also to where you can hear me talking somehow. Never mind, that wouldn't. Yeah, and then that's why I said never mind, that wouldn't work. There's probably a way to do that, but that sounds very complicated. Yeah, the fan is super background. Very, very background noise. Do I need to talk as loud as I'm talking? Is this okay? If I talk like this, is that hearable? Yeah, the torch is definitely the loudest thing. I feel like I'm yelling a lot. I feel like I try and yell a lot. Okay, thank you. I'll try to. It's like that scene in Austin Powers when he goes, "I'm having trouble modulating the volume of my voice." You don't hear the fan at all? I think it may eliminate background noise. I think our mic might. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but the only time the torch gets actually loud is like this, and I'm still way louder than the torch. Cool. Okay. Good stuff. Learning. Again, we're constantly learning. Technically, we've restarted. We'll restart how long we've been streaming for, because this is all brand new. This is all brand new. So we were just using our phone, and even though we were using Streamlabs through your phone is completely different than Streamlabs here. And we're going to be able to do so many more things here. I'll be able to do green screen overlays. Eventually we can green screen everything here, and it'll just pick me up, and then we can do like videos of me over the video that we're watching, stuff like that. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that I'm gonna need to learn, and we're gonna do just a little bit at a time, or else I'll fucking have a breakdown.
When they got a call from Gary at the IRS. Gary got on a group call
Gary.
with agents from other departments working on the case, like the DEA and FBI, and he laid out everything he found. Gary
The next thing I want to figure out how to do is... Wait, I can pop out chat this, can't I? Toggle timestamp? No, but I can do a pop out chat from YouTube. Let's test this. Let's see if I like... Let's test this. Let's pop out chat from YouTube better than looking at it from here. Pop out chat. I think we'll go reverse. So it's kind of nice being able to still see the top of my camera here. Yeah, I can do a pop-out chat, and I'm going to reverse this. So what I mean by that... Hang on. Minimize that. Get this full screen. Exit out of here. And then pull this here. Why can't I? Why isn't it letting me? What button do you press? What button do you press to pull up the toolbar at the bottom whenever you're full screen on something? Is that a thing? Right? That's what I was thinking. Hang on. Full screen. Full screen. F11. That just exited me out of it. Are you not? Can you not pull up another loop? That's a thing. You should be able to do that, right? F12.
Username Altoid.
Oh. It was not F12. What does this button do? It's like right click, I guess. What does this button do? Oh, home button, okay.
And the first one to
I don't want to click too many buttons that I don't know what I'm doing. I know those ones that I clicked wouldn't do anything bad. Yeah, lay something over full screen. So pull this, excuse me. No, don't minimize. Pull this screen up over this screen. So I can have chat bottom corner for me to look at, but so y'all have this entire thing to look at instead of just a fucking corner over here, you know? Because usually when you go full screen and you go down like this with the cursor, you know, it pulls up the bottom shit and it doesn't whenever I do it here. It's probably in settings somewhere. Or is there a hot? Yeah, there's a way to do it. But is there a hotkey for it? Right, bring to forefront. So leave it open, right click. Nah, this is only pulling up YouTube options. Oh, that's when you're actually whatchamacallit. That's when you take away the toolbar. Show task, new entry, show Cortana, show Windows. Lock the taskbar. Lock the taskbar. Taskbar settings. Oh yeah, I haven't even activated Windows yet. Automatically. Oh yeah, that's right. I think it's right here. Automatically hide the taskbar on desktop mode. Use peek to preview the desktop when you move your mouse. Show taskbar on all displays. Yeah, I need to call Windows because the task key to open Windows 10 wasn't working because it's not under the name of who bought it anymore, which is annoying.
Multiple posts about Silk Road
But
on different forums, almost like he was promoting the site when it first began. Gary said that the user had slipped up, and on one of his later posts included his personal email, rossalbrecht@gmail.com. Gary then went on to explain how on Stack Overflow, the user had posted a coding question related to Tor under the name Ross Albrecht, and then a minute later changed.
Play on TV, full screen, default view. Settings, playback speed. Oh, goddamn! I'm at 2160p. 2160p 4K. I need to play video games on this shit. What the fuck? That's okay. We're being greedy now. I'll just do it like this. But then it takes up too much of this bullshit. How do you do split screen? Is split screen an option? I do know split screen is an option somewhere. That's okay. We'll figure that out later. And then we'll just do this for now. I gotta pee. Yeah, we'll just do this for now.
changed the name to the pseudonym Frosty. At that exact moment, one of the other agents on the call cut Gary off and said,
There we go.
"Did you just say Frosty?" And Gary was a little frustrated. He still had more to explain. "Yes, I said Frosty, but why are you focusing on that part?" Gary
What
asked.
button?
The agent
Isn't there a
replied,
button you
"When
press
Gary
that-
from Iceland, we found that both the server and the computer that belongs to DPR had both been given the same name. Frosty."
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, but isn't there a button that pulls up all the windows you have open? I did it earlier. I held down something. Was it control? I held down something, and it pulled up all the different things I had open. I didn't know if that was a way I could make it double screen or make it split screen. Sorry, I guess I could have pressed play. Make each screen mini and change the dimensions. See, this is one of those instances where I made it way more difficult than it needed to be, right? Can we all agree that I made that way harder than it needed to be? And now this, no, no. Hey, fuck off, whatever that is. Huh? Ooh. Wait, I gotta make sure that I click on this.
D. There was a brief silence on the call. The dots were starting to connect. Gary then added that he checked
Okay,
where Ross was
okay,
currently living
okay.
because of the incident with the fake
Okay.
his records. However, when Gary shared Ross's
See,
current address with the FBI,
see.
they couldn't believe it.
Jay, I'm glad we have similar brains, because I know to you that you seen what my brain was doing. It was like, there's gotta be such a hard way. There's gotta be a setting in fucking display to where you can make it to where you can have it side by side. And I forget that this is a very advanced high-tech computer, and I could probably have 4 screens like this in just different areas, which is something that we can, yeah. It's capable of these things. My brain needs to catch up.
Ross was living in San Francisco, just a couple of blocks from the
Overthinking the very basics. Literally just having two tabs pulled up and open at the same time. Not a split screen. It's not when you have to separate your 2 screens to where you can pull one off to the side. That's where my mind went. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to set it up to now where, you know, where you have 2 monitors set up and you can pull one from one to the other. No, just have two tabs open.
Track the Silk Road admin IP address. This was clearly their guy. The truth was now clear to
I made that
everyone.
way harder than it
FBI
needed to be.
agents, the DEA
Well, 'cause I was
agents,
expecting it.
and
I was
Ross
expecting it to be harder than
was
that.
Director Ira Roberts. Gary had been right. The elusive criminal mastermind they'd been chasing for the last couple of
The
years.
only thing I
perhaps
don't
wasn't
like-
quite the criminal.
There's less information here. It doesn't tell me how many people are watching, or how long we've been live for, or if the stream crashes. It's fine for now.
Masterminded thoughts. He made several major mistakes that exposed his true identity. His downfall
I'm gonna stand
was
up for
simply
now.
because of human error. This was a guy in his 20s.
Yeah, we
who
can
never
definitely make it
expected
bigger.
Silk Road to become what it did, and thus hadn't taken enough care to cover his tracks. Or, as Gary would say, this was the digital equivalent of the parking tickets. A minor detail that had been
But then
overlooked.
this gets
Either way,
smaller. I want
the
this to
authorities
be
finally knew that Ross Ulbricht was the one behind Silk Road.
still
now, they just had
readable.
to catch him. But, surprisingly, that wasn't going to be as easy as you'd think.
See, like that. If you
The
click
FBI
full screen, it
assigned a
goes
team of
full screen
undercover
here.
agents to track Ross and watch his every move. Because they had access to the
This
Silk
is
Road
already
server
theater
logs now,
mode.
they
It's
could
as big
literally
as
see
it,
when the Silk
it
Road
goes
admin
on
were
YouTube.
around. And it always coincided with when Ross opened or closed his laptop. It was undeniable he was their guy. So why weren't they rushing in immediately to arrest him? Well, you see, they needed to catch him with his laptop open. That laptop contained all kinds of valuable data that would not only help in prosecuting Ross, but also in tracking down other people who'd worked on Silk Road or big dealers on the sites. But if a team of agents just suddenly swarmed in to arrest Ross, he would likely have time to close his laptop lid, which would lock it. I mean, all the data was encrypted and near impossible to break into. Plus, if they didn't catch Ross,
Definitely
literally sitting
learning
at the
process.
laptop, it would give him some kind of deniability. So they had to catch
Ooh,
him
wait.
red-handed with the laptop open in front of him, so they could definitely prove.
Let
he
me
was
see.
responsible.
Hang on.
When Ross
I might just like this better. Oh no, chat disappeared. It's exactly what I was doing before, right? Yeah, this is exactly what I was doing before. Well, at least we figured out that what we were doing before is the correct method.
woke up on October
At least,
1st,
yeah, and here I have
it
the
seemed just like
video
a
as well.
He initially went to a nearby cafe, but it was quite busy and he couldn't get a spot to work in that was private enough, so instead he went to sit in the San Francisco Public Library. He found a
Since
secluded
pulling
spot
it up
where he
with
could
full
see a
screen isn't
and looked
an
into the
option
separate
as of
area.
right now.
Of course, Ross was completely unaware that the library was filled with undercover FBI agents who were watching him. But remember, one wrong move from the authorities and Ross could panic and close the laptop, thus encrypting all the data. They couldn't let Ross know they were
Yeah,
after him.
so Jay, that is where my mind went as well. There's got to be a setting to where when I go like this, hang on. You know what I mean. There's definitely a setting to where you can go half and half when you minimize the screen, or when you press the button to pull it out, when it fucking expands every tab that you have open. Is it tab? No, it's not tab.
And where it would all be over. So, two undercover agents created a distraction right behind Ross, posing as a couple arguing. One of them swore loudly in the quiet library, causing Ross to turn around to see what was going on. At that exact moment Ross turned around, another agent who'd been positioned right next to him swooped in and grabbed the laptop off the table in front of Ross. Ross tried to reach out to grab it, but it was too late. Another agent had come up behind him and handcuffed him, placing him under arrest. It was all
They had
perfect
someone
timing.
run
So
up
Ross
and
had no chance to
grab the
fix.
laptop?
Ross had been caught logged into the admin section of Silk Road. And in the corner of the
Oh
computer,
shit! They caught him logged into the, so they couldn't catch him digitally, so they had to wait for him to literally log in. And they distracted him and ran up and yoinked the laptop out from under him. I don't know if y'all heard earlier, but when they said that he had a hot function wired in to where if he closed the laptop, it hot deletes everything that was just previously run. So every time you open it, you start from a blank server pretty much, or a blank hard drive, blank everything, and if you close it, it wipes it. So they had to make sure he wasn't going to close the laptop either. That's wild. And then they're about to say that it actually even had his fucking username still logged in to the admin section of the top right.
Was the name Frosty. And not just that, on his unlocked computer was a full diary about running
this is
Silk
supposed to be
Road,
live
along
chat.
with thousands of chat messages he sent whilst running the sites, all of which could use as
It had a chat log? Why would you have a chat log on a website like that? Why would you have a chat log on a website like that? That doesn't automatically wipe after a couple minutes at most. Like,
evidence to convict him and verify his story. Newspapers and TV stations all around the world covered the story. The Boy Scout who'd been secretly running a website that trafficked an estimated $1.2 billion of drugs, weapons, poisons, and other illegal goods.
That's wild.
His family was sure he'd been framed or there'd been a mistake. This couldn't possibly be there, Ross, could it?
dang it, I already chipped my fucking nail polish. Did I just do that?
Sometimes when I'm researching these business stories, they feel more like the plot of a Hollywood movie than real life.
Damn, I'm kind of dumb. Jay, you know what I just realized? There's gotta be an overlay. Sorry, I was loading. I can add sources. So say this is a source for YouTube. No, see, I'm making it too complicated. I can add a source and put what we're watching as an overlay over this right here. But it would function pretty much exactly as what we're doing right now. You see what I'm saying? I can make a window here that shows what we're watching on the desktop. But the way we do it here functions so I can watch it with y'all. So this is still the better option. It worked the exact same, but make it much more complicated too. I'd be adding a whole nother layer. Yeah, see, it's good sometimes to extrapolate the ideas all the way out, because in my mind, I immediately was like, do that. That's what you need to do anyways. Have overlays that you can do, little screens and whatnot in the top corner, but it doesn't need to. We don't need to do that. We'll do that eventually for like giveaways. We'll do that for maybe like countdowns. We can do that for like. Remember we were talking about leaderboard? Instead of putting the leaderboard, where am I pointing? Instead of putting the leaderboard here on the TV, we put the leaderboard here on the actual stream. I need to remember that we have layers now. I need to remember that there's multiple layers to my stream that most streamers don't typically have. Most streamers don't have a screen on their stream while they're streaming, right? Most streamers usually are overlaid by green screen on their stream, which we can also do. We can also do that. But again, that would defeat the purpose of us doing glass blowing, and then that would be for strictly content, not for glass blowing. So I don't have arrow keys on the 60%. You say Windows key. That's what that one does. That's just a search key. So yeah, Jay, what I was saying is we can have. I need to remember that there's layers to our stream. That if the one thought was to put Stream Leader or Donation King here, But I can just add an overlay and put it right here. Put it on the actual stream instead of on the screen here. And I need to remember that there's multiple layers to our stream. Not only can I do stuff on this screen, but I can do stuff here as well. We have 2 layers of scenes, where most streamers only have 1 layer, which is Streamlabs, and your sources here. I have sources here, which is the sources for here, but I also have a screen on our literal stream. It's very, very. It's like it's like an onion. It has layers, and it's gonna take some getting used to, because I'll need to compartmentalize in my brain what stuff needs to happen where. And like we were just saying, Jay, I made it way too complicated in what I was trying to do. I was like, yo, we could totally overlay this on the screen here. And then my mind went, but no, we can actually just put an overlay on the screen here. But then my mind went, wait, shut the fuck up. Just do what you're already doing and stop trying to make things so complicated. Which is
but they do say that
this.
the truth is often stranger than fiction. And this next part is
Because
absolutely...
so for some streamers they have chat as an overlay going right here. I have chat going right here. I know y'all can't read it from here to here, but you don't need to read it. The content you're looking at is on this side of the corner, and if I want to overlay anything like a counter, like a giveaway thing, we put that here. And I'm almost positive we can overlay links too. So if we want to do raffle links, and you know what's funny? Ah, fucking dick balls. Why, I just thought of that. Oh, we lagged. Why I just thought of that was this. Because I have multiple link figures down here, and I was like, wait, you can put links on your stream, can't you? Yeah, I have these like this. Oh, wait. Yeah, like this. I also have this one. They're very dusty. If y'all have stuff like this, I'll trade you for glass. If you have figures, I'll trade you. Make it customs and stuff. But yeah, so I'm almost positive and confirm if you know this yourself, but we can put links at the top of the screen here that y'all can click. And see, this is the layers that I'm talking about. Obviously, there's a layer of technology for that one, where obviously I can't put anything in my layer here, in the layer of reality, but I can put in the layer of the digital realm a link in the top of the screen here that you can click and see not only an outlay of the different raffles we have, but where you can pay for them too. And again, I'm thinking way down the line, obviously. This is the stuff that can be done, but that I'm not going to attempt now, because I'm not adding any more to the plate until we figure out a little bit more details. We're going to figure out the small stuff before we get more detailed. Loose end of that was a teaser or a fake post. If it was the one with what's his name, Spider-Man. Yeah. Oh, I thought I kicked Lucy as the chair. Master list that has Amazon wish list, what we need for the shop. We can have a leaderboard list as well. That's all linked there. Yeah, a bunch of different stuff. But again, like I said, I need to be able to compartmentalize real world layer and technology layer, and the different possibilities for each. That instead, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there for sure.
Absolutely ridiculous. So, after the authorities got hold of Ross's open laptop, they could see everything, including all his chat histories. But this led the FBI to realize there was a government agent who'd been working on the Silk Road case who'd been privately messaging Ross and accepting secret payments from him in exchange for information
Oh,
about
shit.
the case. This corrupt agent was Carl Force, and he obviously thought because the messages were encrypted and the payment was in Bitcoin, he would never get caught. But now the government had Ross's chat histories and records of the Bitcoin transactions. It had all started when Carl initially
Yeah,
posed
time to
as a
blow some
contract
glass.
smuggler on the Silk Road forum.
I need to take one more rip before we do that, though. It helps slow my brain down until I stop thinking about it.
Roberts and started to build a relationship.
That's hilarious that
Once Carl had built up some trust with
there was already a CIA agent or whoever it was, an NSA agent working on it with them, and that didn't let anybody know about it.
Ross, he told him that he knew of a mole within the DEA and started selling information about the Silk Road case to Ross. Of course, Carl himself was the mole. He was taking payments from Ross in exchange for information about the case. Over the course of several months, Carl received over $750,000 in Bitcoin in exchange for sending information to Ross about the Silk Road case. But things get much crazier. You see, one of the employees Ross had hired to help him with Silk Road was a guy called Curtis Green, who had become a site moderator. But one day when Curtis got a large shipment of coke sent to his house, he was caught by the Baltimore Task Force and got arrested. Ross was obviously confused why his moderator suddenly stopped replying to him, because at first he had no idea Curtis had been arrested. And then he noticed Curtis had stolen $350,000 from Silk Road, because as a moderator, Curtis had access to some of the site's funds that were being held in escrow. Now, Ross obviously assumed Curtis had betrayed him, that he'd stolen money from the site and then vanished. But in yet another twist, it wasn't Curtis who stole money from the site. It was another corrupt agent on the Baltimore Task Force called Sean Bridges. After arresting Curtis Green, Sean had logged into Curtis's Silk Road
There was
account,
multiple
moderated
corrupt
pages,
agents?
and started transferring some of the Silk Road Bitcoins to his own personal account. So this government agent was basically siphoning money off Silk Road to his own personal Bitcoin wallet whilst logged in with Curtis's moderator account.
Oh,
And just to be
shit.
clear, Sean
So, on an untraceable site, he used somebody else's information to log in and siphon off untraceable money and still got caught? Doesn't sound very untraceable to me. If the dude had even forethought to use somebody else's information on the deep web on a Tor browser and still somehow got caught.
Sean wasn't doing this to turn the money over to the government. He was moving the funds to his own personal private accounts, thinking he wouldn't get caught. So, just
Look at
to
how
recap,
cute they
we
sit.
now have two different corrupt agents working on
Look
the
at
Silk
how
Road case,
proper,
both part of the Baltimore Task Force,
pristine
both with their own separate
these
schemes
feet
to
are.
steal Bitcoin for themselves. As for Ross, he honestly had no idea about any of this. He just assumed Curtis had robbed him. So, according to the chat logs from Ross's computer,
Can y'all
he
see
decided
that?
to hire someone
Yeah,
to
you
rob
can
the
see
Curtis.
how
Initially,
how
Ross didn't want
fancy
to kill
she's
him.
sitting.
He just wanted his money back and maybe to beat him up a bit.
Has one
However,
foot,
Ross's
has
inner
another
circle that he
foot.
spoke to on Silk Road, like Dorothy Jones, persuaded Ross it was the right decision to have
So
Curtis
fancy
killed,
with her
because
legs
he needed
crossed.
to send a message that he couldn't be crossed. Otherwise, other Silk Road employees might think about betraying Ross in the future as well. Ross had to send a message. Ultimately, Ross agreed and asked if anyone could kill Curtis. One of the people who saw that request was Carl Force, the other corrupt agent who was part of the same team who just arrested Curtis. Sensing an opportunity to make yet more money for himself, Carl replied using his knob username and said he knew some pros who could get the job done. He said they need 40k up front and 40k after the
This is
execution.
wild.
So, Ross sent the first half of the payment. Carl then got Curtis, who he had under arrest, and staged his death. They took a photo of what looked like Curtis's dead body, except Curtis
You
wasn't
have
dead.
automatic
It was a staged photo.
bedroom lights,
Ross
Jay,
didn't
that's
know.
awesome.
He assumed the hit had been carried out successfully and paid the rest of the money to Carl. Ross did write back that he was a little disturbed by the photo and explained, "I'm new to this kind of thing." It was clear he was quite distressed about issuing a hit on someone, but as far as Ross knew, Curtis had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from him, so he rationalized
He
that
thought it
having
was
guilt
real life.
necessary.
They Breaking
In
Bad'd
reality, of
him.
course, Curtis was alive, and it was the corrupt agent Sean who stolen the money from Curtis's moderator accounts, and the other corrupt agent Carl who'd faked Curtis's death in order to make even more money from a supposed hit job. Shortly after this, Ross would end up ordering hits on 5 other people who crossed him.
Oh my God.
He was trying to extort money from them.
After that first one, he was like, "All right, here we go."
In the diary on Ross's computer, computer, he wrote, "Send payment to Angels for hits on Tony76 and his 3 associates," which was then followed by an update about some work he'd done on the site that day. It seemed like ordering a hit on someone had now just become a fairly normal part of the job.
Yeah, right?
But again, just like with the hit he ordered on Curtis, none of these murders Ross paid for ever took place. No bodies were ever found. It seems Ross was simply getting scammed.
I didn't have my propane on. I was like, what's happening?
Which was lucky for Ross, because when he eventually got caught in the library and all these messages he'd sent were discovered, the murder for hire charges against him were dropped. Because
oxygen machines should turn on soon.
Logs that he paid for those hits, and that he believed the orders had been carried out, it was all an elaborate scam, and he couldn't be convicted of murder when nobody had been murdered.
Wait, what?
For legal reasons, I should stress that Ross's family still maintains that none of these murders Ross paid for ever took place. No bodies.
That's a great argument.
And his 3 associates,
that's an amazing
which
argument.
Was followed by an update about some work he'd done on the site that
they turn green at 11 when I'm supposed to start relaxing, red at 2. Nice, Jay. That reminds me of when parents used to set the timer on the TV at night. There used to be on the old big bubble TVs. They one of the big innovations that they came out with was a timer on them, and I remember that my mom and my friend's mom, who I stayed over at all the time, would abuse the shit out of that. And because obviously we'd abuse it back. They'd be like, "All right, we're gonna set this for 20 minutes," and then we just fucking turn the TV back on.
It seemed like ordering a hit on someone had now just become a fairly normal part of the job to us. But again, just like with the hit he ordered on Curtis, none of these murders Ross paid for ever took place. No bodies were ever found. It seems Ross was simply getting scammed by other people claiming to be hitmen and nobody had actually been killed. Which was lucky for Ross, because when he eventually got caught in the library and all these messages he'd sent were discovered, the move
I fixed my torch apparently too. It's not... God damn it, y'all. I mean, I'm super dumb sometimes. Yeah, okay. You know how this entire time I've been like, dang, I feel like there's too much pressure coming out of the torch. Yeah, I just needed to turn the fucking pressure down, literally. But I had done that. I'm not gonna question it. I'm not gonna question it.
Because even though they had evidence,
like you just said, Jay, I'm trying to overthink it right now. I turned it down and it's working. So I'd already done that before. I'm not gonna wonder what I did. Yeah. It works! Yay!
He believed the orders had been carried out. It was all an elaborate scam, and he couldn't be convicted of murder when nobody had been murdered. Now, for legal reasons, I should stress that Ross's family still maintains that someone planted those messages on his computer.
Just kidding, it's still doing it.
As for Carl and Sean, the 2 corrupt agents, both were sentenced to around 6 years in.
Let me turn it down a little more and see if it stops doing that, though.
Separate government agents working on the same case both tried to steal so much money and secretly transfer it to their own Bitcoin wallets. And if Ross hadn't been caught, they likely wouldn't have been caught either. But of course, Ross was caught. And now it's time we look at the final and most crucial part of all of this. What actually happened to Ross? Okay, it's time for a very quick break.
I'm not crazy. It was just not doing that, right? Whatever.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please turn on the notification bell from Magnates Media. I'm posting
videos
about business, money, marketing, and more. But just subscribing doesn't always mean you'll see them. So please consider turning on notifications, and I'll love you forever.
That's me messing with it again.
Charged with 7 different offences, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and the kingpin statutes, something which was normally reserved for cartel leaders. However, even though Ross had been caught with his fingers on the laptop whilst logged in at the Admin on Silk Road, he still pled not guilty. His lawyers admitted that Ross had started the Silk Road, but claimed he had done so as a social experiment, not as a business to make money. They believe that shortly after he started the site, things had begun to get a little out of control, and thus Ross had decided to sell the site to someone else.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
They claimed that after that,
I think my torch is old.
Involvement in the site, and that Ross was simply being set up as the full guy by the real DPR. They argued the chat logs and diary
It's not- no, it's not
had
it.
been planted there to try and pin all the blame on him. However, unfortunately for Ross, the evidence against him was overwhelming. He had literally been caught logged into the Silk Road admin page, loaded on his laptop, whilst at the library. Not just that, the chat logs on his computer dated back multiple years and showed everything he'd said, including the conversation with Variety Jones, where they invented the Dread Pirate Robber's name as an alibi if he was ever caught. Messages also showed DPR telling someone he was buying fake IDs because he needed to
Whatever.
expand Silk Road server space. And these messages were sent right at the same
A
time.
pumpkin with a cowboy hat needs to happen, though, now that you mention that.
All the sites, there was absolutely no record or indication of that. Plus, Ross had still been receiving all the Bitcoin from site commissions, so it seemed clear he was still the one who'd been running it all this time. From start to finish, Ross had been Dread Pirate Roberts. Despite this, advocates came from all over to support Ross during the trial, but many of them protesting on the steps of the courthouse that he was a hero. They said that all Ross had done was run a website, and if that was a crime, then the CEOs of eBay and Craigslist should stand trial too, as illegal goods were sold on those websites as well. The jury did not see it.
Yeehaw!
They returned their verdict.
Yeehaw and pass the cranberries.
Computer were just too damaged. If you'd only closed the laptop lid within the library, it's likely they wouldn't have been able to prove so much. Before his sentencing, Ross sent a letter to the judge, which said, "I've had my youth, and I know you must take away my middle years, but please leave me with my old age. Please leave a small light at the end of the tunnel, an excuse to stay healthy, an excuse to dream of better days ahead, and a chance to redeem myself in the free world before I meet my maker." The judge did not listen to this. Ross received 2 life sentences plus 40 years with no parole. In
Damn.
other words, Ross would spend the entire rest of his life in prison. Some felt this was overly harsh, but it seemed the judge wanted to make an example of him to try and deter other people from setting up similar marketplaces in the future. The judge also explained her decision by saying that she disagreed with Ross's philosophy that drug use only affects those who take the drugs. She said there are many
Aw, Jay, that's very sweet.
substances sold on Silk Road.
That is
People
very,
die
very
in
sweet.
loved ones, families get ripped apart,
That makes me
charities
smile.
are created, and in many
If you can
instances,
see my cheeks, I'd be blushing.
children, and a generation who grew up neglected and orphaned. In other words, Silk Road was the irreparable harm to many people. The judge also pointed out that whilst no bodies had been found, Ross had commissioned 5 murders which he paid for, and he fully believed they'd taken place. Ultimately, the evidence against Ross seemed conclusive, and thus Ross was sentenced to life in jail. Of course, there's 2 sides to this. On the one hand, there have been studies that showed people were much less likely to be physically harmed buying these substances online compared to on the streets. And Ross tried to argue Silk Road actually made the experience much safer, especially with the review system on the sites. If these people were going to buy illegal goods anyway, Silk Road was probably a much safer way to do it. Ross was also technically a first-time offender, and this was a non-violent charge, and so a life sentencing did seem unusually extreme. Because yes, Ross built the Silk Road platform, but aside from the initial clues he grew, he wasn't selling any drugs himself. He was a web admin, and you could argue that drug trades happen all the time on platforms like Facebook and Snapchat, but that doesn't mean the platform creator is to blame.
What up, Arctic?
On the other hand, there is clearly a big
Arctic, you should be so proud of me.
Those other sites
We were having so
where
many stream issues,
Silk Road actively encouraged it and made it possible.
and I figured all of it out.
A study from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that for the first time in recent history, more people have died from opioid-related overdoses in
We don't have any stream lag now. No latency left. The audio, all of the audio fucked up. Somehow, oh, my hair almost went into the flame. All the audio fucked up. Right, Jay? I put super low latency on, so I see everything immediately now. But all the audio settings messed up. And we had to go back in and reset everything pretty much in the audio. Which meant pretty much relearning, or meant learning all of the audio sections. And what was active, what kind of audio we have, what the settings for each does. It's been doing that. It did that yesterday when we are we running out of propane? It did that yesterday on when we logged back on and the video whatever had changed, and it did it the first night too. When what happened the first night? What changed the first night? It was something changed. I forgot. We're lagging a little bit. But yeah, we got it to work. It's working now.
America from debts. They found one of the main reasons for the rise in debts was due to the ease in which people could now gain access to these substances. The growth in substance abuse coincided with the growth in popularity of Silk Road. In other words, people got access to items they likely wouldn't have been able to access without Silk Road, and in multiple cases, that led to people dying. Silk Road made it easy for people of all ages to access
Yeah, we know now.
illegal goods and Ross and illegal bags. In fact, he personally approved the sale of countless extremely dangerous items. However,
Yeah, the audio is all over the place.
You have to recognize it's not fully black and white. What does seem clear is that Ross was the creator and operator of Silk Road, and that from February 6, 2011 to July 23, 2013, it's estimated well over 1.2 million unique transactions happened on the site, and 9,519,664 Bitcoin was generated.
Oh my
in
God.
sales. Of that, 614,305 Bitcoin was taken by Silk Road's commission. Some of that money was reinvested back into site growth, staff, and maintenance, and some of it Ross took for himself. Back in 2013, when Ross was caught, that money was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. As of today, it would be worth tens of billions of dollars. It's ironic, really, that Ross was a big fan of the show Breaking Bad, as it's clearly parallel with his own story. A seemingly total normal guy who is sent.
I wonder if the big pump and dump of Bitcoin was by the government after they seized all of the assets from this, you know? And they're like, well, now we've got this money, what if we make it worth more and then we sell it and make even more money? Right?
Engines of becoming a drug kingpin, gradually getting more extreme along the way, like ordering a hit to get some more pills. And likewise, both started out with a more noble objective. For Walter, it was to pay his medical
Right?
bills,
Doesn't that
for
sound like
Ross,
something
it was
the government would do?
But both seem to end up liking
Like,
the
oh, well,
power
this
of
is ours
Ross
now,
too
let's make it
much.
worth more money.
They found a way and pushed things too far, until finally, it all caught up with them.
Silk Road 2, the electric boogaloo.
Even though the judge had expected that the sentencing she gave to Ross would deter anyone else.
Oh, I did miss
on
it.
Silk Road, in reality, almost immediately after the original
Why'd I miss that comment? I'm on live chat right now. I put it on sleep, and I don't turn it off. I don't turn it all the way off, at least. Should I be doing something different?
Silk Road site was shut down, Silk Road 2.0 popped up. Arguably, all the attention of the Silk Road case just got more people interested in the idea. However, sequels are rarely better than the original. And indeed, the more...
Right, that's the right way, that's what I thought, right?
The same notoriety as Ross's original sites. Silk Road 2 lasted exactly 1 year before federal agents found the server hosting Silk Road 2 in the
Yeah.
country and realized the server was registered to the email address blake@bentool.net. Turns out, a guy called Blake Bentool was allegedly operating the site and used his own personal email account with his full name in to set up the server for Silk Road 2. So, just like Ross's use of his personal email address led the FBI to him, the same happened with Blake. I'm still not sure why you would possibly use your real personal email address for that. Anyway, once again there was some controversy around how the authorities were able to locate the server in the first place. Some think governments used a potentially illegal spying technique, and others think the Tor network itself may be compromised. There's all kinds of theories, but none of that has stopped countless other similar dark marketplaces popping up over the last few years. Generally, as one shuts down, another one tends to open. Although quite often it turns out the entire site was a scam in the first place, or even a honeypot by the government to catch readers. Interestingly though, many of the people who set up these Silk Road phones or similar illegal marketplaces do so under the name Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah.
So in a way, Ross's vision of a free market that would live on...
Dread Pirate Roberts live on. Dread Pirate Roberts lives on.
Although, since Ross is facing the rest of his life in prison, I doubt that's much consolation. Now, if you found this story of Silk Road interesting, I think you're really going to enjoy this video I made about Mark Zuckerberg's enemy, the Bitcoin billionaires. This video looks at the rise of Bitcoin, including its ties to Silk Road. And you can click here right now to watch the insane full story for yourself. Finally, I just want to say thank you for watching this video to the end.
Yeah, I'll watch that. Sounds good.
Making money in 2022. Well, here's an AI crypto bot that I set up only for...
This is a story of a revolution and redemption, a tale of obscene wealth and power. This is the truth about the Bitcoin.
Make sure we don't heat up the fucking screen. Because we're working hot right now.
By now, the origins of Facebook are pretty well documented. it. Mark Zuckerberg meets with Tyler and Karen Winklevoss about being the developer for their new social network idea. Mark agrees to help them build their websites, but ends up stringing them along for months whilst he secretly starts working on his own social network. When the twins realize what's happened, they sue Zuckerberg for stealing their idea. Years later, a hugely successful Hollywood movie about Facebook's origin would be set around this legal battle. But
I love that movie. Social Network is one of my favorite movies.
Eventually, the Winklevoss twins, or the Winklevi as they're often known, were offered a $65 million settlement by Facebook. Their lawyers urged them to pay that. However, whilst it wasn't a vast amount of money, the Winklevoss twins simply wanted payment in Facebook stock instead. Their lawyers couldn't believe it and tried to convince them to take the cash and run. However, for the Winklevi, this wasn't so.
Good night, Jay. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here while we
Facebook was a
mess with all the settings. I do really appreciate you.
So they at least wanted a piece of that.
Good night,
That
Jay.
decision to get paid in stock instead of cash turned out to be a very good move. When Facebook had its IPO, the Winklevi shares became worth $500 million. But there was one problem. Going up against Zuckerberg so publicly like this had ruined their reputation. They were now regarded as a bit of a joke in the media, and in the Facebook movie, they came across as pretty spoiled and entitled. Zuckerberg seemed like the genius who actually made Facebook, whilst many felt they were just dumb jocks trying to cash in off his work. As Zuckerberg himself put it, we weren't the first people to have an idea for a social network, and neither was I.
Until next time, Jay, I appreciate you.
Facebook, and last never checked, Tom from MySpace is in soon. And it's pretty true, ideas are cheap, execution is everything. So basically, after the case closed, the Winklevi ended up with a lot of money, but most of the world viewed them as losers. Now, ask yourself, what would you do with $500 million? Go travel the world, buy some expensive sports cars or mansions? Well, the Winklevoss twins had a completely different plan. They wanted to use that money to invest in other companies. They wanted to prove they weren't just dumb jocks.
Woo! Okay, it's hot in here now.
And change the narrative of their story. So they went
This
to
is hot
Silicon
right
Valley
here.
and decided to
This
become angel
is hot.
investors.
This is hot.
They buy shares in startup companies they believed could be even bigger than Facebook. But something very interesting started happening. When the Winklevi found a company to invest in that they liked the look of, they'd make an offer. But their offer would always get turned down. Now sure, if this happened once or twice, it's normal the companies might have already found other investors. But over and over, companies were turning down the Winklevi's investment money. Eventually, they confronted one of the founders and asked, "We've made a really good offer. Why are you turning down our money?" As it turns out, once again, their problem was Mark Zuckerberg. You see,
No way.
In Silicon Valley, many founders viewed their end game as
Dang.
selling their business
I don't think
to
that was
Facebook,
enough.
or at least
That wasn't enough oxygen. I think we just flipped the breaker. Yep. Or not the breaker, we flipped the, Yep, I'll do it. Hot wires. Very warm wires. Well, that's not good.
he's partnering with them in some way, and it was widely known that Mark Zuckerberg would never buy a company if the Winklevoss twins were involved. As a result, their money and presence had become toxic. People just didn't want the Winklevoss twins associated with their company. This realization was devastating, and that the twins were unsure where to go from here. This was a new low, so to get away from it all, they went to Ibiza. One night in Ibiza, the Winklevoss twins were at a pub trying to distract themselves. But they couldn't enjoy it. They were too busy thinking about what their next move would be. They knew they wanted to do something meaningful. They wanted to prove themselves. But how? They clearly weren't having fun in the club, so they got up to leave. But at that exact moment, someone shouted to them, "Hey, you the Winklevi?" Well, one of the downsides of being 6'5" twins who've just been portrayed in an Oscar-nominated movie is that it's pretty hard not to stand out. The guy introduced himself as David Azar and said he needed to tell them about something. And what's that? One of the twins asked. David took a dollar bill out of his pocket, and with a smile, he said, "A revolution."
Want a second income stream? Because if you can download an app from the App Store, then you can now build a passive six-figure income stream within weeks, even if you're already slammed with work, family, and everything else. And you don't need to invest a penny in real estate or crypto or waste months building an e-commerce store.
No, you can
Doing
make
some
passive
affiliate
income
marketing.
within weeks.
This-
Standing on a beach in Ibiza, David was passionately telling the Winklevoss twins.
Dang, I chip my fucking nail polish.
Neither of the twins had ever heard of Bitcoin before. But then again, almost nobody had. When David approached the twins in Ibiza, it was 2012.
Oh god, he
Bitcoin
says it
only
like
launched
that.
in 2009. As the twins listened to David's speech, they felt sure Bitcoin was either complete rubbish or a really big deal. They just didn't know which one. David explained, it's digital money, an electronic cash system that's completely decentralized. So it cuts out the need for middlemen like banks or Visa and MasterCard. Plus, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoins created, so governments can't just keep printing more whenever they want, like with cash. Given that the banks have just been bailed out by taxpayers after the 2008 market crash, it was easy to see some of the benefits of a decentralized system of money. David then explained that Bitcoin had been created by a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto, who one day posted a white paper online fully explaining this new virtual peer-to-peer currency. The whole thing was shrouded in mystery though, as soon after this, Satoshi disappeared without a trace, never to be heard from again. Plus, Satoshi claimed to be Japanese, yet wrote in perfect English, so to this day, nobody knows who Satoshi really is. Finally, David explained he was looking for investors in a company called BitInstant, which helped people buy Bitcoin in an easy way. Basically, people paid the company normal fiat cash, and BitInstant would send them Bitcoin in return for a small commission fee. And this was why David was so eager to speak to the Winklevi. He wanted them to be investors in BitInstant. Now, the founder of the company was a guy called Charlie Shrem, who was running the company from his mum's basement, so it didn't exactly fill the twins with confidence, but it was at least a nice change. Someone actually wanted the twins to be involved in their company. The whole thing was a lot to process. This certainly wasn't a conversation they'd expected to have whilst partying in Ibiza, but the Winklevoss twins were intrigued by this whole concept, and so they listened carefully as David passionately spoke about Bitcoin and how he felt it could change the world. You see, the twins had majored in economics at Harvard, and could quickly see Bitcoin had potential not just as a currency, but as a store of value, essentially digital gold. Now, the reason gold has been used as currency for so much of history is because it's extremely durable, portable, hard to counterfeit, easy to authenticate, and it's scarce enough to be valuable, but not too rare that they quickly run out of it. The Winklevoss twins realized Bitcoin not only had those same properties as gold, but in many ways it was much better. Like, it could easily be divided into small fractions and was more easily transferred. Of course, on the flip side, Bitcoin wasn't backed by anything. The value of Bitcoin was based on people believing it had value and being willing to purchase it. The price you could sell your Bitcoin for was based on the price someone else was willing to buy Bitcoin for. It's supply and demand. Then again, this is essentially the same as any currency. So the Winklevoss twins felt they needed to delve further into this. They exchanged contact details with David and said they'd get back to him. The Winklevoss twins then went away and dived into research on the world of cryptocurrency. They soon realized that Bitcoin had a bit of a dark reputation. Back in 2012, most people seemed to think it was mostly used for drug deals, money laundering, or tax evasion. And to be fair, it often was. It was also very popular with libertarians who wanted a system of money where the government couldn't interfere. The twins also read stories about people having their Bitcoin wallets hacked, or simply losing it and having to search through landfill sites to try and find it. However, despite these issues, the technology itself seemed innovative, and it was clear Bitcoin had a loyal community who supported it. The twins felt that if more people knew of it and understood it, then Bitcoin could be huge. They also saw that the first known time Bitcoin was used to purchase an actual product was in
Alright, sorry, I'll
when a guy in Florida wanted to
getting all my wiring set back up.
forum saying he'd transfer someone 10,000 Bitcoins if they ordered a couple of pizzas to his address. The transaction was a success, although looking back now, he probably wouldn't call that success. Years later, when one Bitcoin reached the price of $60,000, those 10,000 Bitcoins would have been worth $600 million if we kept them, instead of using them to buy 2 pizzas. But still, back then nobody could have known what Bitcoin was going to become. All the Winklevoss twins knew was they wanted to be a part of it. Firstly, the twins decided to become investors in Charlie Shrem's Bitcoin exchange company, BitInstant. They reportedly put around $1.5 million in to become part owners of the company. But that was just the start of the Winklevoss plan.
I'm back.
They also asked Charlie to buy them $100,000 worth of
We are troubleshooting mainly.
Back then, Charlie was used to dealing in orders of a few $100.
Lots of problems
So
tonight
huge.
between the stream and the
to buy another
oxygen
$100,000
machine.
worth of Bitcoin for them. And the orders just kept coming. Before long, the Winklevi had bought around 1% of all Bitcoin, roughly 200,000 coins. Back when the price of Bitcoin was below $10 per coin. And luckily for them, some unexpected events on a small island were about to change everything. Banks in Cyprus had made a series of really bad investments. For example, they'd loaned a lot of money to Greece, and then when the Greece economy nosedived, they gambled and bought more bonds from the Greek government. As a result, banks in Cyprus were now broke. So Cyprus asked the EU for a bailout, but they said they'd only help Cyprus if they came up with some of the money themselves. The way Cyprus decided to do that was essentially taking money from their own citizens. Banks in Cyprus were ordered to confiscate some funds from their customers to help pay Cyprus's debts. So if you were living in Cyprus at the time, one morning you'd wake up, check your bank balance, and find that money had been taken from you to help cover the country's debts. When the Winklevoss twins saw this story, they knew it was big. All around the world, it's ringing bells about the
They had a clip of the Winklevoss twins from the Social Network just then. That made me laugh.
pitfalls of a centralized system where the governments and banks had the power to do whatever
Make sure
they
everything's
wanted.
cooled down
People
before we
thought they needed a store
keep
value
going.
that governments couldn't.
Good night, Dishonored.
And thus, after the
Appreciate you being here, friend.
headlines worldwide, the price of Bitcoin began to rise. And then it just kept rising. $100 per coin, $500 per coin,
Rise.
$1,000 per coin. And as one news outlet picked the story up about Bitcoin, it caused another to pick the story up. And then it spread more and more, causing the price to keep rising as more people discovered Bitcoin. Meanwhile, the Winklevoss twins were basically traveling around the world promoting Bitcoin. However, the twins felt Bitcoin should embrace some regulation so it could become more mainstream. Sure, it needed to be done in the right way so it didn't kill what made Bitcoin innovative, but they also didn't think the totally unregulated Wild West was good either. They felt having more rules within the crypto space was a good thing, and that it would help distance Bitcoin from its shady reputation. The thing is, many of the early adopters of Bitcoin completely disagreed with them. They felt the whole idea of Bitcoin was that people should be able to do whatever they want with their own money, and the government shouldn't have any insight or involvement. So there was a real conflict between the Winklevi and some of Bitcoin's early users. In fact, even within BitInstant, Charlie's company, which the twins invested in, some of the other people involved in the business didn't trust the twins. They viewed them as pursuits, outsiders who didn't share their vision for Bitcoin, and who would sue anyone they didn't agree with. Charlie dismissed these claims at the time, but would later regret that decision when the twins decided to sue him. Before we get to the next chapter, I want to tell you about our video sponsor, Incogni. In the past, when I signed up to certain websites or newsletters, I should know over half.
Don't buy Dogecoin and Shiba Inu in 2022. You'd be missing out on the biggest
Charlie's company, BitInstant, was becoming incredibly popular. Because the more the popularity of Bitcoin grew, the more people would want to buy Bitcoin. So BitInstant was in a great position. You see, back then, the main actual Bitcoin exchange was called Mt. Gox. The website had originally been an exchange for the card game Magic the Gathering. It was clunky, totally unregulated, and run by a crazy Frenchman living in Japan, calling himself the king of Bitcoin. To actually use the exchange, you had to go through a lengthy process of wiring money overseas, waiting weeks for your account to be approved, and then another week just to get your money in or out. So the whole selling point of Charlie's company, BitInstant, was that it was essentially a middleman. They acquired Bitcoin in bulk from Mt. Gox, and then sold it to people who wanted to buy Bitcoin much more easily and quickly. And the business model was working well. In fact, since the twins had invested in the company to help it grow, BitInstant had gone from processing $1 million a month to around $1 million per day. And Charlie calculated BitInstant was processing around 35% of all Bitcoin purchases at the time. However, the money and fame had kind of gone to Charlie's head. He was traveling the world, partying with models, and as a result, neglecting his CEO duties. It was understandable. Charlie had a big most people ignored in high school, and so now he was famous in the crypto space, of course he wanted to enjoy this. A few years ago, he'd been living in his own basement, now he felt on top of the world. But the Winklevi felt differently. They knew if Charlie didn't get things under control soon, the company would be in trouble. Because although BitInstant was processing a lot of Bitcoin purchases, the company itself wasn't actually profitable yet. And Charlie was asking them for even more money to help cover their rising costs. Plus, everything within the company seemed a little chaotic. Charlie was in his early 20s and didn't exactly have management experience. Tensions between the Winklevi and Charlie got much worse over the next few months. For example, the twins were setting up meetings with influential people in finance to help Bitcoin adoption become more mainstream. And for one of the big meetings, they asked Charlie to come along to talk about BitInstant. However, he turned up hungover, or maybe he was so drunk. But either way, he was a mess and his presentation was a disaster. The twins contemplated replacing Charlie as CEO of BitInstant. And told him bluntly, he needed to stop partying and traveling and get serious about running the business. Charlie felt the twins were overreacting. The company was doing better than ever. Just because they were investors didn't mean they should be micromanaging him like this. But with hindsight, Charlie must have wished he'd listened to them, because just a year later, Charlie would find himself in prison. Silk Road was an online black market, a kind of underground Amazon for everything from illegal drugs to guns to hitmen. It was a multi-million-dollar business, and Bitcoin was its currency. However, in 2013, Silk Road was suddenly shut down after the owner was caught, arrested, and sentenced to life in prison. Immediately after the news broke, the price of Bitcoin started falling rapidly. Down and down the price went, and along with it fell the net worth of the Winklevi. But the police decided to use this opportunity to buy even more Bitcoin. Because they believed in the long term, the death of Silk Road would be a good thing for Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin had become so associated with this black market that it had been hurting Bitcoin's perceived legitimacy. But then another problem arose. The instant Charlie's company that the team had invested in suddenly shut down as well. Turns out that in the wake of the Silk Road drama, the Instant had lost its license, which designated the company as a legal money transmitter, and Charlie had no choice but to abruptly close completely. He posted on the BitInstant website saying it was just a temporary issue, but the police knew the company was doomed. Shortly afterwards, in January 2014, things were even worse for Charlie. He was at an airport minding his own business, and suddenly heard the words, "Charlie Shrem, you're under arrest." He was handcuffed and carted off to a jail cell by an officer. He was told it was a combined arrest. This wasn't just police involved, but he saw people with FBI badges, IRS badges, and even the DEA. Charlie had no idea what was going on, but it was clear this was serious, and he was terrified. One of the officers started asking him questions about someone with the username BTC King. Suddenly Charlie realized what this was about. Silk Road. You see, for a while, there had been one particularly active user on BitInstant who in total had put around $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Charlie knew there was a high likelihood the money was going to Silk Road for illegal purchases. And since Charlie was technically BitInstant's compliance officer, he was responsible for this and was meant to report any suspicious activity. But he didn't. In fact, he'd done some transactions off the books in an effort to get around certain legal requirements. Charlie's philosophy was that it wasn't his place to question how many Bitcoins someone wanted or what they did with it, except, legally speaking, it was his place to do that. As a result, Charlie was now being charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, failing to follow suspicious activity reports, and operating an unlicensed money transmitter. Charlie was technically the first Bitcoin felon, the first person to be arrested directly because of Bitcoin, and thus his picture was all over the news. Charlie's parents had to put up their house as collateral to bail him out, and he then had to go back and live with them under house arrest until his sentencing. Charlie's lawyer informed him he could be looking at 25 years in prison. Just a year earlier, Charlie had had all the wealth, fame, and success he'd ever dreamed of, and was running a rapidly growing company. Now, the company was shut down, he was heading to prison, and his entire life was collapsing around him. When Charlie's day in court finally came, he pled guilty in connection with indirectly sending an estimated $1 million in Bitcoin that was used on Silk Road. However, it wasn't quite as bad as he feared. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, much less than had been expected, although admittedly still a scary prospect for the 24-year-olds. Unfortunately for him though, that wasn't quite the end of it. When Charlie finally got out of prison in 2016, it wouldn't be long before he was hit with a lawsuit from the Winklevi, claiming he owed them 5,000 Bitcoin from a previous business deal, which by that point was worth around $32 million.
Oh my god. Holy shit. That's a lot of money. Playing fucking music on my goddamn channel.
Two weeks after Charlie's arrest, the main Bitcoin exchange, Mt. Gox, completely collapsed after 800,000 Bitcoin was stolen from customers' accounts by hackers. With the fall of both BitInstant and Mt. Gox, two of the main ways people bought Bitcoin back then, the Winklevi knew that Bitcoin needed a new wave of entrepreneurs and companies to make buying crypto safer for people. So they founded their own crypto exchange called Gemini, which has been described as the most regulated crypto exchange in the world. They basically wanted to try and bring some order to the chaos of the Bitcoin community. Other companies would also do something very similar, like Coinbase, FTX, and Binance. For the Winklevi though, their push to help Bitcoin become more mainstream was paying off. Literally, they claim that they've never sold a single Bitcoin. And remember, they own around 1% of all Bitcoin. So within a few years of these more regulated exchanges opening and the Bitcoin price rising higher and higher, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss became the world's first known Bitcoin billionaires. Of course, Satoshi himself, the mysterious unknown creator of Bitcoin, does have more than them. If he's still alive, he's believed to have 1 million Bitcoin, which would make him one of the richest people in the world. But for the twins, they didn't stop there. They've since expanded into other blockchain-related projects, like Nifty Gateway for NFTs, and they seem to be extremely focused on Web3 and decentralization. The idea of having web services and applications operated and governed by users instead of corporations like Google and Facebook. As a result, some have wondered if they're still seeking revenge on Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Makes sense.
What's interesting about this story, though, is you can look at it in two ways. On the one hand, you could say it's a story of redemption for the Winklevi. After the Facebook lawsuit, their image was tarnished, and nobody wanted to be involved with them. They'd had the idea for a social network, but missed out on being part of the social media boom because of Zuckerberg taking their idea. So instead, they found a new technology, had the vision to see its potential even really early on, went all in on it, and helped bring Bitcoin to the masses, thus becoming billionaires in the process. However, on the other hand, you could say this is just the story of two rich frat boys getting even richer through luck and fortunate timing.
Yep.
You could say they just got greedy and then helped pump up Bitcoin's price, something they still do to this day with arbitrary price predictions. Plus, remember they only had the money to buy so much Bitcoin early on because of the settlement they got from Facebook, which some people think they didn't deserve it.
And because other people invested with them. They only had other people invest with them because they had the posterity of being already rich and white and Harvard graduates and all that, whatever.
In the first place, since they didn't do any of the real work on Facebook. They just had a fairly vague idea that wasn't even exactly the same thing as Facebook. Honestly, there's no right answer on any of that. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But I do think this is a fascinating story of the early days of Bitcoin. As for Bitcoin in the present day, whilst it's clearly much more popular than it was a few years ago, the price still fluctuates wildly, and it's unclear if Bitcoin is actually going to be useful long term. One thing is clear though, I will never tell you to message me about any crypto deals, so please be wary of fake impersonators in the comments pretending to be me, as crypto scams.
Alright, what are we gonna watch next? Ooh, the Uber story. Fraud, betrayal, death, and cards. Yes, please.
Accounting is tough. Accounting is difficult, even for some accountants and for business.
Uber's the most ethically challenged company in Silicon Valley.
The story of Uber begins on a winter's night in Paris in 2000.
Was the most ethically challenged company?
Travis and Garrett stood waiting for a taxi, which was late. They were cold, frustrated, and wondering if their cab was ever going to show up at all. But, as with any good entrepreneurs, every problem is a potential opportunity. That night in Paris planted a seed in their minds that would lead to $1 billion empire. But this is not your typical business story. The story of Uber is littered with scandals and controversy at every single turn.
Alright, we're back on track with everything. Also, y'all remember we have a new raffle going on. $10 per spot, 10 spots only. Winner chooses their pick of the pumpkins.
Whilst the idea for Uber was in many ways revolutionary, it was also illegal.
It was illegal at the time?
Travis Kalanick faced relentless bullying when he was young, and often threw himself into his work as an escape. As a teenager, he saw kitchen knives in his local neighborhood, cold calling door to door, and honing his natural sales skills. A talent that would later prove invaluable in helping him pitch investors for money. But before starting Uber, Travis had dropped out of college to work on another entrepreneurial venture called Scour, a peer-to-peer search engine for files that was a little like Napster. And just like Napster, it would get sued into oblivion. Scour got sued for $250 billion because of copyright infringement, meaning the company had to declare bankruptcy. Travis was bitter about this, and went on to start what he calls a revenge business.
The name of the company is called Red Swoosh. The idea was the same peer-to-peer technology, but I take those 32 litigants that sued me and turn them into customers. So now those dudes who sued me are now paying me.
Travis would eventually sell this business for millions of dollars, giving him the money needed to start an even bigger project, Uber. Travis and his friend Garrett had become increasingly frustrated with taxi taxi companies and figured there had to be a better alternative. But it was actually during a James Bond movie that the idea for Uber came to them. In one scene, Bond tracks a car across a map using his phone. And this would form the basis of their new app, which was originally called Uber Cab and launched publicly in 2010 in San Francisco. Uber Cab aimed to solve the problems of a traditional taxi experience. Firstly, you could order an Uber with the touch of a button on your phone rather than calling someone. Secondly, you could watch the car's journey across the map, so you knew it was on its way and how long it would take. Thirdly, Uber had luxury black cars with leather interiors which would show up spotless, complete with chilled bottles of water in the back. And finally, the payment would be seamless. The ride would be automatically charged to your card, so you didn't have to mess about with change or a tip. In other words, it was originally a luxury black cabin limousine service to give you a small taste of the James Bond experience. And thus, getting an Uber quickly became a status symbol in the wealthy San Francisco area. It was a great start for the company, at least for the first few months. Then, on October 20th, the transportation agency showed up at Uber's offices and informed them that what they were doing was against the law.
Really?
Now, at this point, all of Uber's drivers were licensed professional drivers, registered with local transportation offices.
Look out, Mr. Moth, don't come this way.
Harsh, but apparently there were strict rules about running a taxi business, and Uber was breaking them.
Yeah, taxis are very, very
the cars themselves. They were getting
almost mafia
to use their own cars, which
style. How strict they are.
Created some legal issues.
With licensing and stuff.
Told them that every day Uber Cab was in operation, the company faced fines of up to $5,000 per trip. Not just that, but they said the Uber team could face up to 90 days in jail for each day that the company remained operational. The small Uber team was both devastated and terrified. Most of them were in their 20s, some had just come straight from college, and now they were being threatened with fines and potential jail time. One of them nervously asked, "What do we do?" But one man wasn't worried. Travis Kalanick, Uber co-founder and CEO, told the office confidently, "We do nothing. We ignore it." He went on to say that they'd simply drop the cab part of their name and just be known as Uber. He announced, "We're not a taxi company, we're a technology company, so these rules and regulations don't apply." Travis would frequently come up with creative definitions like this that would save the company billions of dollars, but create a lot of controversy. For example, he also said that drivers of Uber weren't employees, they were partners. Thus meaning Uber didn't have to give them employment rights or benefits. Of course, Travis knew the authorities were unlikely to see his way of thinking on these issues. So, he prepared for war.
Just can't be great. That's why I love you. It's been not.
Travis knew that if he could get enough people using the Uber app, they'd see it was a better way to travel. And at that point, the authorities wouldn't be able to shut them down without facing huge public backlash. But they had to move quickly. So, Uber struck a deal with AT&T to buy thousands of iPhones in bulk at a discounted price. They would then hand these out to drivers pre-programmed to run Uber's software. They also offered them cash bonuses for completing a certain number of trips per week. This immediately brought lots of new drivers onto their network very quickly. Then, to get riders, Uber offered to give away the first trip completely free. After all, who wouldn't want a free taxi ride? Uber would then give the second and third trip away at a discounted price to encourage them to use the service again, believing that if someone had tried it a few times, they'd see the value and be willing to pay full price in future. This strategy was incredibly expensive, since the company lost money on every ride. But it paid off, because too many people started exclusively using Uber instead of normal taxis. And then Uber began expanding into other cities by replicating this same strategy, offering generous promotions up front along with referral bonuses, so the app became popular very quickly, meaning that by the time the city's authorities started questioning what Uber was doing and whether it was even allowed, they already had a loyal, active user base. Then, whenever local authorities threatened them, Uber would send out alerts to users on the app with a button to easily sign a petition supporting
looks so
Uber,
good.
or even a button to email their local representatives to express their support for Uber using a pre-filled email template. Whenever Uber sent out these alerts via their app, local councils and regulators would soon find their inboxes flooded with people saying they support Uber and don't want it to be shut down. Uber would also organize protests outside City Hall and ask users of the app to come and make their voices heard. Although in one particular protest in New York, not many Uber users showed up to support them, so Uber just told all their employees from one of their offices to go and protest instead.
That's hilarious.
The local authorities didn't realize that most of the support was coming from paid Uber employees.
That's hilarious.
But in Travis's view, Uber wasn't doing anything wrong. He said there's been so much corruption and cronyism within the taxi industry, by corrupt taxi cartels, corrupt politicians to protect them. So if you ask for permission up front, you'll never get it. He believed Uber was better for both riders and drivers, but that there was no way they could win by playing by the rules. So he completely ignored them. However, in 2012, the battle between Uber and regulators became much more fierce, when Uber launched a new service called UberX, which allowed almost anyone to be a driver for the company, which opened up all kinds of new legal issues. And by this point, city officials had already realized that Uber wasn't very cooperative, so they instead threatened drivers, and essentially said, if we catch anyone driving for Uber, we'll fine you, clamp your cars, and tow them away. The idea was to scare people to stop them from using the app, so that Uber would never gain any momentum. But Travis and Uber were already several moves ahead. Firstly, they regularly sent out notices on the app, saying that any fines or fees incurred whilst driving for Uber would be fully reimbursed. Travis viewed these as just another business expense. But the real genius was that Uber developed a secret system so that local cities would
still got some trouble with the oxygen machine.
Travis knew the authorities would download the Uber app themselves so they could track the cars within the app. However, Uber developed a software to detect when police, regulators, or local council members tried to join the app, and then they would greyball them, which is effectively like shadow banning. If you get greyballed, you can still open the app, but it looks like there are no cars driving on the map. And if you try to order a ride, it just tells you there's no drivers nearby. Whereas if you viewed Uber with a normal non-greyballed account, you'd see that really there were loads of nearby drivers. Now, how did Uber know who to greyball? Well, firstly they use location data, and if you downloaded or used Uber from certain areas, like a police station or government offices, you'd get flagged. Uber could then check the personal data of that account, including things like their credit card information, and cross-reference that with social media to check if it was a real user trying to use the app, or if it was someone associated with a government agency or law enforcement, or anyone who might be trying to shut Uber down. The Greyball software also detected suspicious activity, like someone opening and closing the app lots of times without ordering a ride. Uber even recruited ex-CIA, NSA, and FBI employees to help them improve the Greyball software, as well as to spy on local government officials and track where they went. Essentially, Uber built their own corporate espionage team, and it worked. There are countless stories of authorities ordering Uber, hoping to catch the Uber driver in the act and fine them for breaking the rules, but instead, suddenly their order would get cancelled, as supposedly there were no Uber drivers using the app. The authorities just thought that people were following their warnings and not driving for Uber, when in reality, they were seeing a fake map with all the cars hidden, because they'd been greyballed, so they had no chance of catching Uber or its drivers. Of course, Uber kept this operation highly secret. In fact, it wasn't until 2017 when an investigation discovered that Uber had been evading local authorities for years by using these systems.
That's hilarious.
Digital equivalent of that sort of greed is good mentality, the Gordon Gekko kind of mentality, which is we will do this, we can do this, and no one's going to stop us.
Uber also spent vast sums of money on lobbying governments to legalize their service. So by the time that Uber's secret Greyball operation was discovered and people realized the deceptive practices they'd been using, Uber were already up and running legally in most major cities.
That's hilarious.
And was too popular to shut down, just like Travis had planned all along. Once Uber had support and leverage in a city, it's reported that they treated negotiations with local authorities like hostage situations. Basically, once Uber knew they had the power and the public support, they used that to get legislation changed to accommodate their business model, such as changing the laws about contract workers so that Uber didn't have to give drivers full employment benefits. Of course, Uber's battles would never really stop. Even to this day, just look at Uber in the news right now, and you'll see people protesting Uber and some cities banning it altogether. But in those early years, Uber devised a systematic playbook for evading the rules and outwitting the local authorities. And that's what allowed them to expand so rapidly. The only problem was that an even bigger battle was just beginning.
So why do you need an LLC? It gives your business its own legal identity, saves you stress, time, and money, and allows your business to look more professional, creating the trust between customers and you as the business owner. Go to TaylorBrands.com, answer a few simple questions, and let Taylor Brands do the rest for you.
Form your LLC in just a few simple steps. First, pick your state, choose your business name, and once you're done.
So not only does Taylor Brands help you
Travis got a call one morning from a friend of his, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Mark told him that all his employees at Facebook were going crazy over a new app called Lyft. Now, it's actually still debated to this day whether Lyft copied Uber or Uber copied Lyft. Because even though Uber started first, remember when they first began, they were a luxury black cab service. It wasn't until 2012, the year Lyft launched, when Uber became a more affordable service that let anyone drive for them. Suddenly, these two ride-sharing apps offering the same service were going head-to-head. And most people who know Travis well have commented one thing. In any form of competition, he seeks nothing less than utter domination. Travis believed there could only be one winner, and he would stop at nothing to make sure he was on the winning side. So he wasn't afraid to play dirty. For example, one of Lyft's most effective marketing techniques was to hold driver events, small parties with food and games to try and get local communities interested in driving for Lyft. But Uber would frequently crash these parties and hand out promotion codes where drivers could get free money if they joined Uber instead of Lyft. They basically hijacked the parties Lyft was paying for and recruited people to join Uber instead. Another promotion technique Lyft used was giving out giant pink mustaches that drivers could put on the front of their cars. A fun and simple gesture designed to make Lyft more recognizable. In response, Uber put up billboards everywhere Lyft was operating, urging people to shave the stash and come use Uber instead. Uber also created a vast amount of fake accounts on Lyft, so they could track the locations of Lyft drivers and feed all of this data into another secret software they created called Hell.
Called Hell?
Is because Uber also had a system called Heaven, which was a God view map of all Uber drivers active on their system. But Hell was the opposite, a God view map of Lyft drivers. The reason for this was that then Uber could figure out which drivers were using both Uber and Lyft. Uber would then offer those drivers extra rides and cash bonuses, so they always took jobs with Uber instead of Lyft. The goal was to get these drivers to stop using Lyft completely because Uber seemingly paid them more money, when really Uber was deliberately paying them higher than their other drivers to lure them away from a competitor. Once they stopped using Lyft, the bonuses would end. And Uber didn't stop there. For any drivers who were exclusively using Lyft and not Uber, they would order a ride on the Lyft app from a location near that particular driver. And when the driver showed up, an Uber employee would try and recruit them to join Uber instead. It's even reported that sometimes Uber employees would use burner phones and order lots of Lyft rides all at once and then cancel the rides at the last second. In later years, when the public found out how Uber had been sabotaging Lyft and stealing their drivers, they faced a lot of backlash. But Travis and Uber didn't think they'd done anything wrong. They believed business was a competition, and you had to do whatever it takes to win. Not just that, but it seems Travis enjoyed the fights. He would even troll Lyft's founder on Twitter. However, perhaps one of the biggest reasons Uber did so well compared to Lyft was that Travis would find out whenever Lyft had investor meetings to raise money. And then he would immediately call those investors straight afterwards to tell them that Uber would be raising money very soon as well. Investors knew Uber was the bigger company, and since they couldn't invest in two rivals, investors often backed out of any deals with Lyft to invest in Uber instead. It also helped that Travis was a natural showman. He had a real talent for gathering investors and getting them hyped about how huge Uber was going to be. He'd tell them that one day, Uber wouldn't just transport people, but transport every good you can think of, and deliver anything to anywhere, and thus could be a serious rival to Amazon. He'd get investors excited about his vision, but then, after the meeting, he wouldn't reply to them for a little while, to make it seem like he didn't really need the money, which just made the investors even more eager to invest. It wasn't long before Uber was getting some huge investment from venture capital funds, including a staggering $258 million from Google Ventures. And of course, more investors meant Uber had more money to spend on expansion and marketing, so they were always going to have an advantage over competitors by having a bigger budget. Here's just a few examples of some of the publicity stunts Uber pulled to get more attention.
Look, Valentine's Day, we distributed tens of thousands of roses to thousands of drivers. Every girl who got in a car after 4 p.m. was handed a rose by the driver. In President's Day, in D.C., we did what we call an Ubercade, okay? Escalade, town car, Escalade, American flag all the way down. 1 out of every 20 people that push the button, an Ubercade rolls up.
But hold up, hit the brakes. Whilst Uber's publicity stunts might seem like all fun and games, let's be clear, the story of Uber has a much darker side. So far, we've seen Uber be unethical in their efforts to beat left, and we've seen Uber break the law to outwit local authorities. But believe me, things are about to get even more controversial. Before we get to the next chapter, I want to tell you about today's video partner, Firstbase, an all-in-one incorporation platform that's helping founders easily launch a US-based business from anywhere in the world. As an entrepreneur, I cannot survive any longer working 120 hours. I am not a slave and I refuse to be one.
A seed stage investment of $50,000 in Uber turned into hundreds of millions.
Shortly afterwards, Doug drove to City Hall, put a gun to his head, and pulled the trigger.
At City Hall?
Doug is certainly not the only driver who has taken their own life and cited Uber as the reason. In India, one driver who couldn't make his car loan payments on time committed suicide, which led to an angry mob of drivers showing up at Uber's offices carrying his dead body, shouting that if Uber's wages weren't so low, that driver would still be alive today. Now, Travis's view on Uber was simple.
We're making drivers' lives a hell of a lot better. They're making a lot more money. They're making ends meet. They're living their American dream. And Uber's helping them do that. Riders are getting around town much more efficiently. I'm not sure who hurts from this.
And some people would agree with Travis that Uber was simply a more innovative and efficient system that gives drivers a way to earn extra money and passengers cheaper and easier rides. Win-win, right? Well, not necessarily. Many others have pointed out that whilst drivers may earn more at first glance, that money is then eaten up by fuel, taxes, and car maintenance, often leaving them with less than minimum wage. Plus, Uber drivers don't have secure employment or many of the benefits they would normally get with a taxi company. Not to mention the fact that letting almost anyone be a driver opens up all kinds of safety risks.
Who all still with me? Sorry, I know we haven't been doing too much glass blowing tonight. And what we have been doing is not too crazy to look at. But we learned a lot tonight.
To the public. Needless to say, neither taxi drivers nor taxi operators were going to let Uber win without a fight. Literally.
Literally. What up, Lucinda? Glad you're still here.
Countless anti-Uber movements have been staged by taxi operators
Lurkers are more than welcome.
such as causing a gridlock on the road in protest of Uber. It's also reported that in some countries, there are taxi cartels, which had ties to organized crime, who would assault Uber drivers, steal their cars, or even light them on fire. In some places, such as Mexico, there are reports of Uber drivers literally being killed, with many people suspecting local taxi operators. This was an all-out war between Uber and traditional transportation. The truth is, everyone has their own opinion on whether Uber are the good guys or the bad guys in this story. But
well, because taxi cabs were already pretty much like a fucking mafia. If you know anything about taxis in New York. What up, Brendan? What up, Lewis? Oh, I feel that for sure. I know how that goes. The one thing that helps me the most is pressing my toes into the ground. It's called grounding, not sounding. Careful, don't Google sounding. It's called grounding. Also going like this with your fingers. Some people say counting helps, but it also helps with stimming. Just pressing your toes real hard into the ground and just focusing on that is what I do. But what I was saying, if y'all know anything about the New York yellow cab taxi company and the pretty much monopoly they have over taxi licensing in New York, and the reason why Uber isn't allowed there is because it's pretty much a mafia. It's a violent for money to the highest bidder system like this. It's pretty wild. We'll watch something about that at some point too. How it plays into the Teamsters with Jimmy Hoffa and the Mafia at the time as well, and the Kennedys at the time, the unions and union busters, and how unions were really big at the time. What was the taxi union turned into a mob, turned into a mafia style for-profit system once people started realizing how much money was in it. And the families, the mafia families or the crime families, started getting their hands in all of the what are they called? The Teamsters and the leaders of these unions, and started funneling out the money from these unions, knowing that it was generally elected people that they could pay off and get into as well. So yeah, it was a new form of corruption, and ended up just going all left field. And the taxi union is still pretty much very much in play right now.
Is that wherever Uber went, they were constantly surrounded by controversy. In 2014, a 26-year-old ordered an Uber to take her home after a late night at the office. It was a long trip, and she dozed off in the back of the car. When her driver noticed, he changed route and switched off his phone, making him untraceable to Uber and the police. He found a secluded area to park and climbed into the back of the car and raped her. He then threatened to kill her if she told the police. As he drove off, she managed to snap a photo of his number plates, and thankfully the police were able to catch him. But the story went viral, and many people blamed Uber's lack of security. This simply reinforced beliefs that Uber wasn't safe. Some countries even temporarily banned ride-hailing services like Uber completely. Now, of course, given the huge number of rides taken with Uber, incidents like this always seem like a possibility. And of course, traditional taxi companies have had horror stories like this too. But many people felt Uber had lowered the bar so much to become a driver, which had added a higher risk. And despite many more horrific incidents like this over the years, Uber refused to raise the entry requirements to become a driver. There are even reports that at Uber HQ, whenever a sexual assault victim decided not to pursue litigation, or police evidence wasn't conclusive enough, the Uber team would cheer. It also emerged that credit card thieves have been using Uber for both drug trafficking and sex trafficking. And because of all the free cash bonuses Uber gave away to new drivers, Uber had been inadvertently funding all kinds of criminal activity. Now, I would argue that when Uber first began, public sentiment towards the company was very positive. Uber was cheaper, innovative, and it was the underdog going against traditional transportation. But as the years went by, public sentiment began to shift. News articles broke about how Uber had used Grable to deceive cities, and how they'd used black hat tactics to try and crush Lyft and other competitors. And the bad press just kept coming. For example, it was found that in Indonesia, Uber had been bribing police officers, and they'd then been forging receipts for those illegal bribes, so they could count them as business expenses. Uber also faced serious data and privacy issues. At one point, Travis changed Uber's settings so the app could track people even after they'd ended their ride, because he wanted to see where people went after being dropped off by their Uber. It's also reported Uber looked at the data of individual users, such as celebrities, to see where they were traveling and when. In later years, Uber paid hackers $100,000 to cover up a massive data breach that exposed the personal data of 57 million Uber customers. Uber would also have to pay $28.5 million to settle a lawsuit because Uber had falsely advertised that it had industry-leading background checks, which it evidently didn't. But one of the biggest PR disasters of all for Uber came in 2017, when taxi drivers were striking to protest Trump's ban on Muslim countries. Uber ignored the strike, which meant they rendered the strike ineffective, and they profited from the fact that taxi drivers weren't driving. Many people were outraged, and Delete Uber began trending on Twitter. Over 500,000 people deleted their accounts, and likely many more millions deleted the app from their phone. Lyft, who had almost been crushed by Uber, suddenly had a resurgence as people switched to using them instead. This incident, combined with everything else, meant Uber's public reputation was reaching a new all-time low. Uber had still been growing and expanding, but public sentiment towards them had been worsening day by day. And I'd love to tell you that this is the part of the story where Uber turn it all around, where they win that public trust and solve all their issues. But I can't tell you that, because things are about to get even worse.
But wait, it gets worse.
Travis was desperate for Uber to become popular in China, since it's a market of nearly 1.5 billion people. But very few international tech companies do well in China. So Travis invested billions of dollars into giving away free rides and bonuses to drivers, just like Uber had done when it started out in other cities. However, in China, this didn't go quite so well. Scammers in China started purchasing caseloads of cheap smartphones and set half of them up with driver accounts and half of them up with passenger accounts. A scammer would then request rides from one of their passenger phones and use one of their driver phones to accept it. They'd then drive around the streets with dozens of phones spread across the seats.
Genius.
Now remember, the rides were all free for the passenger phones because of Uber's promo codes. And the driver phones still kept the money for the ride too. Plus, the driver accounts got extra bonus money that Uber was offering to new drivers. In other words, the scammers were getting paid twice for every fraudulent trip they did. And after riding around for hours and racking up a huge fare, the driver would simply cash out the money, completely reset the phones, and repeat the process again with brand new Uber accounts. So basically, scammers were making loads of money by exploiting Uber's promo codes, and Uber was losing millions and millions of dollars on fake trips.
Smart.
The thing is, because of an Apple privacy update, Uber were not allowed to track IMEI numbers, which is the unique number associated to every smartphone. Therefore, they couldn't tell when fraudsters were just wiping their iPhone and making a brand new Uber account to claim the free bonus payments over and over again. And yet, despite all of the money Uber was losing to scammers, Travis refused to cancel the promotions because he knew Uber wouldn't succeed in China if they didn't offer riders and drivers free money for initially joining. So instead, Uber found a way to bypass Apple's rules. They inserted some hidden code into their app to track the data they needed, which would help them stop scammers making multiple new accounts from the same device. But doing this completely broke Apple's terms of service. Uber disguised the code so the App Store moderators wouldn't notice. But Apple did eventually find out, and they were furious. They threatened to ban Uber from the App Store completely. In many ways, this example epitomizes Uber, because on one hand, they felt they were simply doing what was necessary to beat corruption and save their company. But on the other hand, it's yet another case of Uber completely disregarding the rules and just doing whatever they wanted. But even without all the scammers trying to rip Uber off, things were hard enough for Uber in China as it was, because there was a rival app that offered the same service called Didi. And because they were a Chinese company, the Chinese government heavily favored them. Didi would also pay local taxi operators to protest Uber and send fake texts to Uber drivers telling them Uber had closed down, that they could come work for them instead. Didi also told some employees to go undercover and apply for a job at Uber. Then if they got hired, they acted as moles, collecting private internal information about Uber and its plans and strategies. When Uber had begun in the US, it was them who were the ones using such shady practices. But in China, the tables had turned. Eventually, after billions of dollars of losses and fraud, Uber made a deal with Didi, where Uber would stop operating in China but get a 17.7% equity stake in their business. Uber's investors were actually very happy about this. But Travis was frustrated he hadn't won the battle. He'd wanted to be the first Silicon Valley entrepreneur to truly crack China, and he didn't like the idea of compromising instead of winning, even if it did make financial sense. The whole experience with China had really just made Travis even more cynical and truly believing the entire world was against him and Uber. And in a way, he was right. Even Uber's own drivers had started to turn on them, and Travis ended up getting into an argument with an Uber driver.
Naruto scrolls. Yeah, Cal wanted the fire. Or not the fire, the water. So this.
They got recorded on the car's dash cam and went viral.
What? You dropped the prices on lap. Yes, you did. It with $20. We started with $20. How much is the mile now? $2.75? You know what? Some people don't like to take responsibility. They blame everything. Email for a phone card. Good luck.
In the middle of all of this controversy, Uber's other co-founder, Garrett, who had taken a much less active role in the business, publicly confirmed Uber's plans to get involved with self-driving cars.
Is this something that you think is going to play a big role in Uber's future?
I mean, I think it's pretty much inevitable. I mean, it is going to happen.
Of course, self-driving cars would eliminate the need for drivers, and so many Uber drivers saw this as yet more proof Uber didn't care about them at all. However, from Uber's point of view, they felt they had to start working on self-driving cars, because otherwise another company, like Google, could come out with a ride-sharing app of their own that uses self-driving cars that could put Uber out of business. So Uber actually started poaching some of Google's self-driving engineers so they could work on this technology for Uber. Unfortunately, this actually led to yet another lawsuit for Uber, because Google claimed that Uber had tried to steal trade secrets from them about their self-driving vehicles. However, the real irony to all of this was that whilst Uber was busy fighting attacks on all fronts, regulators, competitors, public backlash, driver backlash, China, Google, lawsuits, and more, Uber's biggest threat of all wasn't any of these things. Uber's biggest threat of all was itself.
Oh my god! Whoa. Gosh, sit-downs. This is just meant for long-term, consistent, insane performance. So I never have to worry about editing or rendering or playing. I can do it all and hopefully for a long time. And why not get the best of the best and have it for longer than getting something half-made and switch in a year? So Digital Storm, appreciate you. Truly hooked it up. This is the most interesting computer I have ever seen. You really know what they're doing.
You want a professional to build your own PC or
oh my
build
God.
something epic like this, then you can't go wrong going with Digital Storm.
That was ridiculous.
Work was everything to Travis. All he thought about was building a great company. He often wouldn't wash his clothes, see his friends. He'd be working all hours of the day on growing Uber, and he expected the same of his employees. In his view, being at Uber wasn't a job, it was a mission. Employees often kept working even after they went home. There's reports that some staff were seeing therapists to deal with the burnout and intensity of the job, although, ironically, many of them missed their appointments due to being too busy at work. But there were several reasons Uber employees gave so much to the job. One of them was that Travis always positioned Uber as us versus them. Travis loved the book The Art of War, and he created a siege mentality within the company, that it was Uber against the world, that they were constantly in an existential fight. But it wasn't just that. Travis is also a showman and a very charismatic leader. So when he told you that you were part of this important, world-changing mission, you believed him. And he believed it himself. They all felt that the 12-hour workdays would be worth it in the end. They'd be part of history, and eventually get a big payout. Employees at Uber also loved that Travis trusted them with a lot of power to make big decisions without needing approval. Travis basically wanted an army of young and hungry entrepreneurs, and he would assign each of them to a different city and tell them to go and make Uber a success there, using whatever tactics or budget they deemed necessary. This is how Uber was able to act so fast. It wasn't structured like a normal big bureaucratic organization. Travis had all these small teams, each focused on conquering individual cities. This worked incredibly well sometimes, but it also meant that teams at Uber weren't just fighting competitors, they were fighting against each other internally, and occasionally even backstabbing each other, since they were acting as individual teams rather than one united company. Now, I realize so far I've used a lot of war and battle language when talking about Uber, but that's because that's how Travis saw it himself. Business was war, and whilst this attitude was responsible for a lot of Uber's growth, it was also the reason for a lot of Uber's controversies and the competitive dog-eat-dog alpha culture they ended up creating. However, Uber also embodied the mantra, work hard, play hard. It was an Uber tradition to throw a huge party for hitting targets, and Travis would fly employees all around the world for various celebrations. One particularly infamous Uber party was their X to the X event, hosted in Las Vegas, which cost the company around $25 million. Each employee was given a prepaid credit card filled with money to spend, and Travis even got Beyoncé to perform at the event. Yeah, quite a contrast to a traditional work party. In fact, Travis announced Beyoncé and her husband Jay-Z were now investors in Uber, although technically Travis had simply given them stock for attending the event. But still, for Uber's young workforce, it was surreal to be partying with global celebrities. Unfortunately, the exciting culture of Uber also had a much darker side, and there was one incident in particular which really set in motion Travis's ultimate downfall. But before we get to that, it's important to acknowledge that in the early days of Uber, saying you worked there was something to brag about. It was only as the years went by and public sentiment towards the company changed that the opinions of their own employees started to change as well. Some employees quit completely, saddened by what the company had become and all the controversy and scandals that surrounded it. And one of Uber's biggest scandals that caused a lot of that was when a past employee called Susan Fowler accused the company of systematic sexual misconduct. Susan said that her boss had sexually harassed her, but that HR had dismissed the allegations because it was his first offence and he was a valuable part of the team. However, it was later revealed that this was not the first accusation of sexual harassment against this employee, and Uber had frequently ignored the claims against him. When this information became public, other Uber employees started speaking up about the misogyny, harassment and abuse they faced from senior employees at Uber. The floodgates were open, and all the details of Uber's misconduct and toxic culture became very public. To Travis's credit, he acted quickly and ordered an independent investigation into the company's culture. When they finished, they compiled a report with their findings. It contained hundreds of allegations of physical violence, sexual assault, and many other accusations made by current and former Uber employees. It was far worse than Travis could have imagined. Just reading the report was sickening. Uber's culture had become toxic, and until now, a lot of it had been swept under the carpet. Once again, Travis sprang into action, and Uber held a company-wide meeting where all of the Uber board were on stage to discuss how they could improve Uber's culture. It was notable that at the time, there was only one woman on the board, Arianna Huffington. She spoke on stage to the Uber employees, reassuring them that she'd be focusing on addressing the issues of sexism within Uber's culture. She also pointed out that now that there was one woman on the board, it would likely mean there would soon be a second female board member as well. However, at that very moment, one of the male board members interrupted her and said,
Probably not the best time to mansplain something.
Actually, what it shows is much likely to be more talking.
The room fell silent. In the middle of a company-wide presentation that was meant to show everyone that Uber was addressing its issues with sexism, one of the male board members had just made a sexist joke about women talking too much. Seriously, that was real legal
No way.
we just heard. Unsurprisingly, this story made yet more controversial headlines for Uber, and to many people, it proved that Uber's culture problems started at the very top of the company. It also didn't help that in a GQ profile, Travis had previously told a reporter that he called Uber Boober, because attracting women was so much easier now that he was the CEO of a big company. Uber had also had to apologize a few years before that for running a promotion in France that advertised free rides from incredibly hot chicks. It genuinely seemed that Uber was simply bouncing from one controversy to another, and each incident just chipped away at Uber's reputation a little further. Travis was already a tense person, but the pressure and stress of everything going on left him feeling suffocated. At one point, it's reported that Travis collapsed on all fours and broke down, muttering, "I'm terrible." And in the middle of all of this chaos surrounding Uber, the lawsuits, the sexism, the negative media attention, everything, Travis then got a call that his parents had been involved in a freak boating accident, which had hospitalized his father and killed his mother.
Oh, damn.
Shortly after this, in June 2017, Travis announced he was taking a leave of absence from Uber to work on himself, and he vowed that when he returned, he would be a better leader and a better person. But little did Travis know, he would never be coming back.
I'm gonna check real quick. I wonder if when you go options, display. Display. Changing screen orientations. Wait, why the fuck did this put me in Microsoft? Uh-oh. I'm not gonna mess with too much stuff, don't worry. When I snap one on the side of the no, aha, I found it. When I snap a window, show what I can snap. When I resize a snapped window. Hang on, I found some good settings that we need to figure out. Drag windows to the side or corners of your screen and they'll automatically size to fit perfectly side by side. To not fit available space, alright, let's try that. We're learning. We are learning. See, I don't want it to do that. wrong. That's how you're supposed to do it. Oh, okay. Where's chat? I think you only get chat on full screen mode. Uh-oh. Aha. Yeah, you only get chat in full screen mode. Oh. All right, we're learning together. Alt-Tab. Okay. On the taskbar, show windows that are open at or press Alt-Tab. Oops. Ah, this is what I was looking for. Wait. This is what I was looking for earlier. You Alt-Tab. And you can scroll through it with this. Okay. Nice.
Breaking news, Uber CEO Travis Kalanick resigning overnight amid recent scandals.
Kalanick is out entirely, at least as CEO of Uber, reportedly under pressure from some of the startups.
Well, I just learned a lot.
Within a month of Travis taking his leave of absence to work on himself, he resigned as Uber CEO. However, this was not by choice. The Uber board and investors had forced him out as they blamed him for many of Uber's controversies. In fact, one of Uber's early investors, Benchmark Capital, sued Travis over fraud allegations. A VC firm suing one of its own CEOs was a big deal, and it just shows how far they were willing to go to get rid of Travis. Travis understandably felt betrayed and hurt, especially when it was leaked that he'd been forced to resign instead of it being by choice. And Travis was right to feel hurt, because whilst he's undeniably a polarizing character, let's be very clear, it's quite likely Uber would never have become the giant company it is today if it weren't for Travis. Travis had studied Jeff Bezos and the way he ran Amazon, especially his focus on reinvesting profits in pursuit of continual growth and expansion. And that was partially why Uber grew so rapidly. Travis also admired the way Bezos pushed Amazon into new markets. And Travis had tried to do the same with Uber. This led to some failures like Uber Rush, but also some huge successes like Uber Eats food delivery. And Travis still had plenty more ideas on how to expand Uber further into other new and exciting markets. But he'd never get to do that. Instead, Travis had been kicked out of his own company. It had been a wild journey, starting from that night in Paris with his friend Garrett, to building a billion-dollar company that's completed over 20 billion trips worldwide. But finally, for Travis Kalanick, this was the end of the ride.
Haha, good pun.
This is Webflow. Meet the design tool.
Why is it every time I'm about to work we get a commercial?
Tool. Coupled with the most...
It's like it knows.
Since the departure of Travis, Uber has been much steadier. The new CEO has been focused on repairing the relationship with drivers and improving brand perceptions with customers. Sure, there's still been a few controversies, like an Uber self-driving car killing a pedestrian, and protests against Uber from its own drivers and taxi companies would never really stop. However, compared to when Travis was in charge, Uber mostly stayed out of the headlines, which investors were very relieved by. So when Uber had its IPO, which is the sale of its shares to the public, investors believed the demand would be booming now that Uber was in safer hands. However, on the first day of Uber's shares trading on the stock market, Uber's dollar value decreased more than any other IPO on Wall Street since 1975. In other words, the public were not that sold on Uber. Now, you may be wondering if the reason for that is because Uber's reputation is still tainted from all their various scandals. But actually, the reason might simply be that Uber is still losing money every year. Sure, it's very common in the first few years of a business to prioritize growth over profit, just like Amazon did so successfully. But Uber is now over a decade old, and yet they lost $8.51 billion in 2019 and $6.77 billion in 2020. Just to be clear, if you started a business today and made a sale of $1 and did nothing else all year, you could legitimately claim to be more profitable than Uber by a huge margin. Of course, I'm being facetious here. Uber will argue they are simply still in the growth and expansion phase, and profits will come later down the road. But clearly investors aren't quite as confident. Sure, without Travis as CEO, Uber looks steadier and a more mature company. But at what cost? Without Travis's relentless drive for rapid expansion, his constant hunger for innovation, and his merciless desire to win at all costs, is Uber going to stagnate? Are they still going to take on the world in the same way they had with Travis? And Uber without Travis is a little like Apple without Steve Jobs. Still very successful, but it will never be quite the same. It's unclear whether that's a good thing for Uber or not. But what is clear is that Uber is a tale of breaking all the rules and defying all the odds, and somehow coming out on top. And whilst Travis has been kicked out of Uber, he's now a billionaire with an even bigger chip on his shoulder. So this may well not be the last we hear of Travis Kalanick. Question: how does WhatsApp make money? And how did TikTok suddenly take over the world? All of these questions and more are being answered on this channel, where you can watch all our business movies and documentaries totally free. Just click one of these videos now to move on to the next episode, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell if you want to see more content like this very soon.
Finally, a way to build your website the way you actually envisioned, and it's called Wix. Now, being Jojo the tech YouTuber, I'd like to think I know a thing or two about websites. And the main thing I like about Wix is that it doesn't just stop at building the surface-level public-facing side of a website. It also has a whole suite of tools for business and audience growth. And that includes a robust SEO tool set built into every site to increase that organic traffic. So, I mean, you've got the ability to sell subscriptions and digital products, as well as drop-shipping and Amazon integration, form submissions and email marketing, memberships and forums for community building, AI-based social media ads on Facebook and Instagram, bookings for one-on-one sessions, and well, that's not even everything, but I think you get the point. Altogether, this is clearly more than I personally would have a use for, but better too much than not enough. And it just means that...
I was sitting weird in the seat. I had way too much weight on my toes.
You are the problem. You are the problem.
How does WhatsApp make money? What started out as a very simple business question led me down a rabbit hole much darker than I would have imagined. That affects
Uber's the most ethically challenged company.
I like what we just watched. I want to see what else. How to use WhatsApp, so. Let's go. saying truth about TikTok.
It was collapsing around him.
30 minutes until special time.
Zhang Yiming was the CEO of ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok. And as he watched the news,
Binance owns
his
TikTok?
heart was racing.
Now, President Donald Trump threatened to ban it together. We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok.
TikTok had already been banned in India, losing him 200 million users overnight. Now, TikTok was at the center of an international feud, with users and governments all around the world asking the same question: can we trust TikTok? Zhang was simultaneously being called a spy by the Americans and a traitor by the Chinese, and other accusations were flying around from all directions.
TikTok is a data collection service thinly veiled as a social network. It's secretly loaded with surveillance software for the Chinese government, the most addictive social media app of all time. They're discriminating against the disabled. It's essentially malware which targets children. TikTok is a magnet for predators.
Wait, take a breath. Zhang switched off the news and reminded himself that despite all of the negative media attention that TikTok was getting, business was going incredibly well. If you added up the combined revenue of Twitter, Zoom, Dropbox, Lyft, Snapchat, Shopify, Airbnb, Stripe, Groupon, and Spotify all together, it still wouldn't be as high as the revenue of ByteDance. The company's biggest product by far
I thought they said Binance, like the crypto trading company. I've never even heard of ByteDance.
TikTok,
Probably
which in less than 4 years
on purpose that I haven't heard of them.
Global downloads. But ByteDance are now working on several other apps that perhaps have even bigger potential. They already make more money than Netflix, have around double the employees of Facebook, and are expanding worldwide at an unprecedented speed.
That's wild.
And yet, how much do you really know about ByteDance?
I've never heard of them.
You've seen TikTok promoted everywhere, and possibly use it yourself. But did you ever stop to think how this simple Chinese video app suddenly took over the world?
Let's check it out.
You see,
Tell me how. Make me hate it even more.
Kids lip syncing and dancing. Wrong. In less than a decade, ByteDance have gone from a 4-bedroom apartment in China where the electricity kept cutting out to becoming a global empire that is shaping not just social media, but technology, politics, and much, much more. The inside story of how it happened is incredibly inspiring and fascinating. But make no mistake, America's tech giants are terrified of ByteDance. And the real question is,
should you be too?
Hey, I'm Joe, and I want the 30 AI voices from Speechless.
That was a good intro.
If you listen to this video,
ByteDance is an app factory. Whilst TikTok is by far their most successful app, when the company launched in 2012, they created 12 different apps within just a few months. Titles such as Laugh So Much You'll Get Pregnant and Real Beauties, Every Day 100 Beautiful Girls. At this point, it was hard to imagine the colossal impact ByteDance was going to have on the world. In fact, they were even struggling to hire people because of the lowbrow reputation they developed early on. The company's founder, Zhang Yiming, always had big plans. He was inspired by business magnates like Steve Jobs and had a dream of one day building a global company that was as borderless as Google. This was an even more ambitious goal than it sounds, because China essentially operates a separate internet to the rest of the world. Big platforms we all know, like YouTube and Facebook, are banned in China. And likewise, internet companies that start in China almost never manage to take their services worldwide. So Zhang knew that to defy the odds and build a global empire, ByteDance needed to think bigger with the apps they were creating. Then, one day in 2012, he had an epiphany. While sat on a train, he noticed the decline in people reading newspapers and the sharp increase in phone usage, and deduced that we would soon get all our information from phones. But most importantly, he also realized that getting information from our phones meant we didn't have to rely on people to select the information for us. Through a combination of AI, big data, and machine learning, it would be possible to personalize the information to each individual. And
and show them the content they personally are most interested in. And thus, ByteDance's next app was born, Koutiao, which translates as headlines. A news app with a powerful recommendation algorithm that provided a feed of news stories tailored to each user. Zhang said, "We want to become the information platform that understands you best. Uber matches people to cars, we match people to information." The idea was simple, but at the time, quite revolutionary. By tracking every single tap, pause, and swipe, ByteDance's algorithm was quickly able to understand users better than they understood themselves. Instead of just getting a random list of articles curated by someone else, the algorithm would be able to figure out exactly which news stories users would be most interested in and give them a unique, personalized feed. And the more they used the app, the more the algorithm learned about them, so the more accurate its recommendations became. As a result, it was very addicting and a huge success. So much so that other companies soon started copying the idea. And ByteDance knew they needed to keep innovating or else a rival with a bigger budget would beat them. Luckily, Zhang had another epiphany. And this one wasn't just going to change the company, it was going to change the world. It's reported that the average user of Headlines, the news app ByteDance created, spends 74 minutes per day on the app. Is this because people are suddenly more interested in news? Of course not. It's because if you design an incredibly smart algorithm that learns what people like and keeps giving them more of that, it's gonna get people hooked. But Zhang had realized, why stop at news and information? So they took the same addictive algorithm from their Headlines app and created a new app for short videos. Now, you're probably thinking this new video app was TikTok, and you're half right. In 2017, they launched the international version of TikTok we all know, and we'll get to that very soon. But in 2016, ByteDance launched Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok. Same premise, same logo, same interface, but China has its own segregated version, which came first. And there's a few notable differences. Firstly, it had a section called Positive Energy, with selected videos that promote the Chinese government. Secondly, it had advanced facial recognition, where you can search for videos by tapping a face, a feature which led to lawsuits when ByteDance considered introducing it on TikTok. The Chinese version also makes people's skin appear lighter by default, in line with China's whitening obsession. In short, the Chinese version of TikTok is the same app with some major cultural differences. But one thing is very much the same on both versions: the powerful algorithm. It's unique because it isn't built around your social network. You don't have to friend, follow, subscribe, or even search for anything. You just open the app, start swiping, and the algorithm will get better and better at understanding which videos to show you. And because you consume so many short videos in just a few minutes, it gives the algorithm so much data about what content you do and don't like. You could watch 100 videos in a single session, as opposed to something like YouTube, where you may only watch a small handful. And since you're not reliant on your social circle for content, you'll never run out of interesting videos to watch. You're just one click away from something totally random and new. Psychologists have found parallels between this and the effect of playing a slot machine in a casino. So when you combine that with the never-ending scroll effect, which tricks our brains into not knowing when to stop using the app, it's easy to see why people get sucked in. ByteDance even added a feature where when you press the back button, it shows you a new video. You have to double tap the button to actually get out of the app.
I'm addicted to TikTok now. I'm just downloaded it myself, and I can't take my eyes off the videos. I spend between 7 to 8 hours. You just keep scrolling, like you just lose track of time whilst you're on there.
You open this app, you start swiping, and before you know it, 3 hours of your life is gone, and you achieve basically nothing.
There was no fancy effects of what that does to the brain. What effect does that have on the rest of your life?
However, whilst ByteDance had no problem getting people to watch their new video app, they knew that an addictive algorithm was useless if it didn't have enough people creating videos as well. And thus, they launched a genius 5-part plan to get creators on board. Step 1. Lower the barrier to entry. Competition on social media had become tough. filming simple selfie videos was no longer enough to blow up on YouTube. You needed to learn how to use editing software, create thumbnails, and countless other things, which made it difficult for young new creators to get started. So, ByteDance made posting videos ridiculously easy, with built-in editing functions in the app. You can even apply filters and add music to make the video immediately seem way more professional and interesting. Then, step 2, challenges. If you remember the viral Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014, well, so did ByteDance. They realized that if they created challenges within the app that were easy for people to replicate, like a certain dance, it meant people didn't even have to think about original creative content. They could join in by just doing the challenge, which then leads to step 3. Give them a taste of fame. If you look on any social media forum,
this is like, it all feeds into the very base nature of wanting to become famous. It's easy, you have a chance of becoming famous, there's a chance for money, and the algorithm caters so well to you, you don't realize that you've been on it for so long. It's a built-in gotcha game system, kind of like how Candy Crush is. Kind of like the in-game purchase systems, but the money revenue is built in just by you scrolling. It's wild. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Plenty of people complaining about how hard it is to be
18 minutes till special time.
YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And in stark contrast, you'll find plenty of people raving about how easily their TikTok videos blew up.
I literally gained like 1 million followers in about the space of like 6 weeks.
Basically, ByteDance realized that by sharing the love around a lot of creators, it attracted way more people wanting to make videos for the app. It was like a new gold rush for everyone who had got in late on other social media. You could join TikTok and on your first video rack up millions of views. And by giving creators a dose of fame and a hit of dopamine, it encouraged them to recruit more people to the app by telling their audience to come and follow them on TikTok. If you follow Gary Vee, you'll probably be very familiar with this.
TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
But then ByteDance started to notice a bit of a problem. Making the barrier of entry so low, then they got an equally low quality of content. They had plenty of people posting videos, but a lot of it was just kids lip syncing or dancing to songs. So then came step 4 of the plan: arrive at the top talent. ByteDance messaged creative influencers with big followings on other platforms and offered to pay them to come and post on their app. They also reportedly went to art schools to find good-looking creative students and promised to make them famous. Once they'd attracted some higher quality content, they manipulated the algorithm to make sure it got a lot of views to try and improve people's perceptions of how good the content on the app was. And then finally, step 5, nurture relationships. They assigned the top creators account managers who would sometimes even help them with school assignments and relationship issues to make sure the users were able to create lots of content. And thus, ByteDance had done it. Using this strategy in China, Douyin went viral. Of course, plenty of other Chinese companies had tried to copy them. But remember, the more you use ByteDance's apps, the more the algorithm learns about you, which means you get served even better content recommendations, which means you use the app more, and this creates a never-ending cycle of improvements. As a result, very few people wanted to switch to any of these competitor apps that popped up. ByteDance had cracked the code in China, and now they wanted to replicate this success worldwide. In 2017, they officially launched their international version of the app, TikTok. And whilst Zhang Yiming had always been a very ambitious man, even he couldn't have predicted the insanity that was about to begin.
Hey, you ever seen a wealthy person or a wealthy...
Nope, I have not, ever.
I got a jet, I'm sorry, you know.
Quick quiz for you. You're a company with an app that's incredibly popular in China.
No, I'm not.
Now you want to compete worldwide against the biggest tech giants. You, A, poach lots of the top employees from rivals like Facebook and YouTube by offering them higher wages. B, pay top influencers from Facebook and YouTube to come and post on TikTok instead. Or C, pour billions of dollars into running ads on Facebook and YouTube so you can literally siphon off users from your competitors.
B.
Trick question. ByteDance did all 3. You see, TikTok TikTok's success should never have been able to happen. The current kings of user-generated content could have stopped it, but they underestimated TikTok and didn't realize they were a serious competitor until it was too late. By which point, TikTok had stolen many of their employees, creators, and viewers. Of course, the reason everyone underestimated them is because TikTok's growth rate is unprecedented. It went from nowhere to everywhere insanely quickly. So, how did they do it? Now, when ByteDance launched the Chinese version of TikTok, they used a few slightly questionable promotion techniques. For example, they made deals with phone shops that unbox the devices, reinstall their app, and then reseal the box.
No way.
The app was already there when users switched on their new phone. However, with the international version of TikTok, one of their first genius marketing tricks was right out in the open for everyone to see. They initially encouraged users to share their TikTok videos on other social media, which sounds strange at first. Why would TikTok want to make it easy for people to repost TikToks on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and so on? Simple. Because every TikTok video contains a watermark in the corner promoting their app. I'm willing to bet that even if you've never downloaded TikTok in real life, if you've seen a video with the TikTok watermark, it's the ultimate free publicity. And remember, TikTok had made it so much easier to create content thanks to the in-app editing functions. So people would create videos on TikTok and go and post them on all their other social media, giving TikTok endless free marketing. The ByteDance team would even make fake accounts on other social media themselves.
Have you seen
and
just
repost lots of the best TikTok videos. Because they knew that
that's a layer of irony to that joke that I just did, because that's an audio from TikTok.
if you see that TikTok watermark enough, eventually you'll go and download the app yourself. But as well as free promotion, the TikTok team did plenty of paid ads too. Now, to create an ad campaign, most companies hire expensive consultants, recording studios, editors, actors, designers, etc.
But people already using the app
used videos people had uploaded to TikTok as ads. Their terms and conditions gave them permission to do that. Then, all that money they saved on not making ads meant they had more money to invest in actually running ads across all major platforms. They initially targeted highly populated cities
12 minutes,
with low
still special time.
like some of the poorest cities in India. This got them a lot of downloads quickly and cheaply, which shot the app to the top of the App Store, thus attracting lots of free publicity. Once TikTok had some momentum, they targeted micro-influencers with 5 to 10k followers on other social media, and promised to make them stars on TikTok if they started posting content on the app. Many of these influencers were frustrated by the slow growth on other social media, so they gladly made the switch to TikTok. Then TikTok stepped it up. They began targeting big influencers, like those with 1 million followers and above, by offering them big cash payments to come and post on TikTok. According to the Wall Street Journal, ByteDance even paid $1 million to get one unnamed influencer to post a video on TikTok.
God damn.
Whilst it may seem ridiculous,
I wonder who it was.
having celebrities using the platform attracted lots of new users and advertisers. Not just that, but it brought in investors. Just about every venture capital firm was looking to find the next Facebook. And seeing different stars joining the platform led to some investors pouring billions of dollars into TikTok, which ByteDance reinvested into even more advertising. At one point, they were spending $3 million per day on ads. The focus was just pure growth, not profits. But one of the biggest keys to success was that ByteDance made many acquisitions of other companies that helped fuel TikTok's growth. Many of these were AI companies that could help improve their algorithm even further. But also, whenever TikTok expanded into a new area, they tried to acquire a local company who had good knowledge and experience of the city. However, ByteDance's most influential acquisition of all was Musical.ly, a short video app that was very similar to TikTok, especially with its emphasis on using songs in videos. The app was struggling a little bit, but it did have a solid user base in the US, especially amongst very young users. So buying this was a cost-effective way for ByteDance to get new users from a new market. ByteDance later merged Musical.ly and TikTok together, which a lot of Musical.ly users were unhappy with at first. But they soon got on board when they realized the TikTok algorithm was better. Now, whilst all of this might seem too easy, you have to remember, ByteDance already had a formula to follow from all their experiences with the Chinese version of the app. For example, they knew how important it was to make the barrier of entry so low for creators. So they had a whole team creating beautifying filters to make people look better so they didn't feel self-conscious about posting videos. TikTok also copied many of the popular challenges over from the Chinese version so that there were lots of easy but fun challenges for people to participate in when they downloaded TikTok. And then one day, something surprising happened. It was early morning in the ByteDance headquarters. The marketing team were feeling tired. It had been an exhausting few months, and ByteDance have the same 996 working culture as many other Chinese tech companies, which means that you work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. You get paid very well with lots of bonuses available, but it's intense to say the least. So everyone was a little surprised when early one morning, someone excitedly shouted, "Arnold Schwarzenegger just joined TikTok." It was big news because Arnold wasn't getting paid or asked to do it. He just heard about the app and posted some videos for fun. This generated free publicity for TikTok and proved to them they were reaching a tipping point. They were no longer having to pay stars to join. TikTok was becoming the place to be, with even celebrities now voluntarily joining the app. But despite all of this marketing we've just talked about, perhaps the biggest reason for TikTok's sudden growth was something completely out of their control.
Yeah, and then the pandemic hit. Then they made even more money while everyone was on lockdown.
Locked at home with not much else to do, TikTok became the go-to app. Kids even got a parenting unit and doing challenges together. TikTok's growth had already been explosive, but the pandemic just added fuel to the fire. It's reported that during lockdowns, the average TikTok user opened the app 8 different times every day. Suddenly, TikTok was on a faster growth trajectory than usual, and ByteDance's international expansion had gone unimaginably well. But here's the thing. During TikTok's rapid global expansion, multiple issues had been bubbling under the surface. And in the blink of an eye, all of their hard work was about to come crashing down.
Burn the mouse pad just a little bit. What up, Raquel?
In 2019, India banned TikTok due to claims of spreading explicit content. Overnight, TikTok lost around 200 million users. Pakistan has soon banned them. TikTok would eventually manage to appeal the decision, only for it to get banned again just a few months later, on the grounds that they were stealing and surreptitiously transmitting users' data outside of the country. But this was just the start of the domino effect, when more and more governments around the world started raising concerns about TikTok. Specifically, what data is TikTok actually collecting, and what is it doing with that data? Everyone had their own theories on this. A popular Reddit post claimed to have reverse engineered the app and stated it was essentially a data collection service that's in the veil of a social network. The iOS update also meant that users would be alerted that an app accesses their clip. Soon, videos emerged that TikTok reading almost every bit of info was copied on someone's device, even if they weren't using the app. The US Secretary of State claimed TikTok was among a number of Chinese apps feeding data directly to the Chinese Communist Party. The US government then opened a national security review of the platform after both the Democrat and Republican lawmaker suggested it posed a serious threat, and that it could be surveillance software for the Chinese government. A senator also described it as a Trojan horse. Also, the Financial Times reported that ByteDance was trying to circumvent Apple's privacy policies.
The Android version includes code that allows for the downloading of remote zip files, unzips them, and executes the apps inside arbitrarily.
TikTok asks for access to your videos, your photos, your microphone, your camera, and your contacts. TikTok also collects information about the messages that you send, about the apps that you use, the other apps on your phone. It collects the sites that you visit. It collects your search history. It collects your keystrokes. It collects your location data.
hold on. Collecting obscene amounts of data is unfortunately a pretty common practice, especially by social media platforms. So why was everyone freaking out? Well, China's National Intelligence Law requires all companies within its borders to hand over data at its request without the need for a warrant. In fact, the government can literally take ownership of your company if they choose to.
Well, that's not good.
So yes, most people have accepted big tech have loads of our data.
Me getting on TikTok right now to add to the irony of this.
Data seems more worrying, especially given how much data TikTok collects.
4 minutes till 4:20.
Collects is under the scope of China's intelligence law. Maybe that's why it's getting banned from the U.S. Armed Services, and why Reddit's CEO recently claimed that it was fundamentally parasitic.
But again, let's hold up. This is one side of the story. Here's the other side of the story. TikTok have repeatedly stated that they are not a Chinese company. Yes, ByteDance, the parent company, is, but they created a whole separate app and company for TikTok that's not based in China. And thus
This one might be, but we called this one a whole different thing, though.
They have never given data to the Chinese government and never will. It could also be argued that everything going on with countries banning and threatening TikTok wasn't really about TikTok. This was about the rise of China. TikTok was unfairly caught in the middle of a political battle between several governments, and it was just being used as a pawn in a game of geopolitical chess. Sure,
Geopolitical chess.
But that's because their whole app is built around understanding you better to show you more tailored videos.
3 minutes till 4:20.
Surveillance for the Chinese. Many of the accusations against them were just theoretical fears rather than actual evidence. But despite that, it seemed that in some Western countries, TikTok was becoming public enemy number one, especially in the US, where Trump ran ads saying TikTok is spying on you.
Every app is.
The U.S. will ban these apps within 45 days unless they are taken over by an American company. Of course, we know that Microsoft is currently in talks to buy some of TikTok's operations in countries like the U.S., Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. In this executive order, Trump cited some of the things we already know the U.S. officials are worried about when it comes to these apps, things like national security concerns, how they collect data.
TikTok were told they had to find a US buyer or else they'd be shut down. Many TikTok stars who built a career for themselves using the platform were panicked. But soon it looked like Microsoft was going to swoop in and buy the American branch of TikTok so that the app could continue. Right at the last minute though, Trump suggested he wouldn't sign off on it unless a lot of money went to the US Treasury, so the deal fell apart. Next, it looked like Oracle was about to buy TikTok. The deal was agreed, and then again, right at the last minute, Trump announced ByteDance will be creating a $5 billion education fund as part of the deal, which ByteDance was completely unaware of. So once again, the deal fell through. Meanwhile, ByteDance and TikTok were suing Trump and the US government in a hope to delay the ban until after the 2020 US election. And when Joe Biden took over as president, TikTok thought all of their problems were about to fade away. But instead, Biden signed an executive order for deeper investigations. So whilst there was no immediate ban, the threat still very much looms over TikTok. The irony of all of this, though, is that whilst many in the West were calling ByteDance a puppet for the Chinese government, the Chinese government were acting just as viciously towards ByteDance themselves. China completely banned one of ByteDance's other apps that was meant for jokes and memes because they claimed it had vulgar content.
But it's probably jokes and memes about China, which they don't allow. They don't allow you to openly ridicule the president or the government or anything like that. So if it was a comedy app and too much of it was jokes about like life in China or the government, they would have shut it down.
ByteDance really was facing attacks from all directions. But
that's some sensitive button pressing.
Whilst the entire world was busy debating TikTok's data policies, they were completely missing something.
Sorry, did we hit
much
the...
more sinister.
Nice. Our oxygen machine filled up all the way without tripping a breaker.
Go undercover and
no, I'm not going to spend $1,000 on your fucking workshop.
Okay, has anyone else noticed that your For You page has been a little too accurate lately? It hasn't been things that I'll Google or I talk about. It's been fun.
An algorithm designed to give people more of what they want sounds great in theory, until you really start to
too personal.
For example, what happens when a paedophile joins the app and what they want to see is underage girls dancing provocatively.
If you're looking at a lot of kids dancing sexually, it's going to give you more kids dancing sexually.
That's what I mean by how negatively it affects people. How if you're a violent person, it'll feed you violent things. If you're a racist person, it'll feed you racist things. TikTok is the fast track funnels to the different pipelines, like white supremacy and like what they're talking about now. It's catering to it, and a lot of times it caters to the most violent and most depraved and most things, because that's what gets the most clicks. It's not a good thing. My For You page is literally, watch, let's see. I got Dr. Disrespect first. I got a domesticated coyote. Here, look. This is like how confident I am. This is my For You page. We got domesticated coyote. We got someone adding tahini to everything. An advertisement. This is my main page, right? Yeah. An ad. A custom shoe build. I'm curious myself what my For You page is, because I was just thinking about it and I was like, wait, what does my For You page actually look like though? Custom shoe build, crab fishing, or lobster fishing. What'd they have in there? Oh, is that a wolf eel? Yeah, I got a wolf eel. Oh no, it's a giant Pacific octopus. He went in there eating all their crabs. Nah, smart little guy.
This right here is one of the cheapest apartments for rent in North Hollywood.
Real estate, just because they know that I'd be fucking looking up different real estate stuff. This is interesting now that we're looking at it now. More wildlife, more sea stuff.
Months ago, I saw the best sewing
Spencer,
I've ever seen
so
on
some trans content, pretty catered. Tattoos, yeah, pretty on brand. They've been feeding me the fucking one chip challenge lately. They've been trying to get me into the one chip challenge, and I don't want it. I don't want it. We have skateboarding. Yeah, my fucking For You page is literally, that was an ad that I just passed. Ad for Andor. I'd ever watch The Walking Dead. Probably. No, I don't even know what that is. Yet more animal videos.
It's great to hear that you mastered your spelling words, but I need to rescue Carl from space.
Obscure.
My therapist warned me about you, Jimmy. There are no such things as aliens. Oh no! Hurry, Jimmy! Hurry, Jimmy Neutron! You're only home! Women. Cindy, it's great.
And yeah, obscure, very, very, like, out of left field comedy. That's my For You page. That's a little window into myself, if anybody was worried. My For You page is nature and obscure meme comedy. If anybody ever is not willing to show you their For You page, something is wrong. And I say that with confidence now, even more so after watching this video.
A young girl in class on the floor in her school uniform. It's attracted hundreds of comments, mainly from much older men. Bloody kept following through, mostly young girls, as long as one as young as 7 though.
Now, it's worth acknowledging TikTok are not alone in these issues. YouTube had a predator scandal of its own due to its recommendation algorithm, where old men would be watching clips of young children on YouTube, so the algorithm recommends them more of that content.
Wasn't it Daniel Tosh who actually was the one who uncovered the entire trove of different YouTube profiles that catered specifically to this? I'm pretty sure it was, because he was like, why am I having... It was a clip of Daniel Tosh. Literally like, I'm an internet clip show host. Why am I the one who's having to bring this to the attention of the American government yet again? Nothing's been done. Look at all this shit. And he literally showed one of the videos and was like, if you feel weird about what you just watched, don't worry. It's intended that way. The people who watch this stuff watch it on purpose. This is what it is, and brought a bunch of attention to it. And there's a bunch of stuff that's been happening to it lately, like it's been getting a bunch of the stuff shut down, but unfortunately when that happens as well, it pushes a lot of attention towards it from the people who don't need to have seen it as well. So as good as it does bringing attention to it to outrage people, it also just popularizes it too. Especially if the apps that are hosting it aren't going to do anything about it, like TikTok or YouTube.
Worse still, they would link each other to certain videos and timestamps in the comments, which led to YouTube having to disable all comments on kids' videos. But with TikTok, the problems were exacerbated further.
Yeah, there's a whole different section for YouTube now.
Plus the fact
if they even think you're making content for or with or by kids or anything like that, I've noticed it, and I think it's good. I think it's amazing. I was like, wow, there's a lot of steps here to make sure you're not making content for kids or with kids, and I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, that's a good thing. That's something that TikTok does not have.
1 in 4 users of TikTok are believed to be under 17. On a related note, TikTok have already paid millions of dollars to authorities for knowingly collecting private info about children without parental consent. They also had to pay out many more millions when some data got leaked, including private details about children.
Oh shit, we totally missed 420, that's hilarious.
Oh well. Problem is merely one example of how a
distracted.
powerful algorithm can send people, often young kids, down incredibly dark rabbit holes. A second example is how easily kids can be exposed to disturbing videos. For example, this reporter set up a brand new TikTok account pretending to be a 13-year-old. She didn't like or follow anything, and yet before long...
The app showed me this clip of a confrontation in the street. I lingered on the video but didn't press like. Before long I was being fed a stream of videos of people screaming profanity.
That's like
about
most of TikTok though. If you ever watch like one police interaction or one like police brutality video, that's all it'll feed you. It took me forever to get out of that side of TikTok, just because of how stressful it is, especially if you're somebody who's like active in like ACAB, like not like protesting against police brutality and stuff. They'll feed that to you, so you get angry about it, and so you watch it. It's very strategic.
A young man lying bloodied in the street. And TikTok thinks I'm 13.
A third example of a dangerous rabbit hole is depressive content. If the algorithm realizes that what you engage with most is sad videos, your feed will become increasingly dark
or
and
self-harm.
depressing. In fact, one report found that within just half an hour, 93% of videos you get shown will be depression related, if those are the type of videos you engage with most.
Jesus.
In TikTok's defense, the algorithm is simply trying to give the user the content it engages with the most, that keeps them on the platform the longest. It's not deliberately doing anything bad. But if you're already depressed, you probably would linger on the sad videos, which means
or if you're violent,
and sadder
or if you're
your
psychotic,
feed will be filled with the bleakest and darkest corners of TikTok, a lot of which is totally unmoderated, including videos encouraging suicide. Even within popular viral TikToks, there have been multiple challenges promoting something dangerous.
Stupid TikTok Benadryl overdose challenge. Somebody's died from this already.
Another example,
like the fucking Pocky,
completely unsafe
the one chip challenge.
Eating disorder found that her feed was filled with videos advertising.
The one chip challenge I was just talking about. They're like feeding me these clips of the people doing it, and like and then like the next ones will be advertised on the sort of places you can get them from. Like I don't want it. I don't want that. 1 sec.
Unregulated weight loss pills and harmful crash diets. When she made a video calling TikTok out for allowing this content, the post got deleted.
Because I said this app is promoting eating disorders.
Which brings us to yet another issue some people have with TikTok: censorship. Moderators on TikTok were told to restrict or shadow ban videos from users who appeared ugly or were disabled. For example, their moderation guidelines said to restrict content from people who were chubby, having Down syndrome, or simply posting in a poor or dilapidated location. A spokesperson later said this was to try and prevent cyberbullying. Although others have argued that TikTok was simply trying to get content on their platform they felt was more desirable. The people behind the algorithm have godlike powers when it comes to controlling what TikTok's billions of users actually get to see. Another example of TikTok controlling the type of content on its platform came when The Guardian uncovered that TikTok was restricting content relating to the independence of Tibet and Taiwan, along with subjects like the Tiananmen Square protests. In other words, TikTok censors videos that they know won't please the Chinese government. Some say this is to try and advance China's foreign policy aims. But the most likely reality is ByteDance simply don't want to annoy the Chinese government any further after they already banned one of their popular apps. The truth is, TikTok can't really win here. Some think TikTok is stifling free speech, especially since they announced plans to hire thousands more employees to their censorship and moderation teams. But on the other side, other people feel TikTok is not doing enough to control what gets posted, and that they have a big problem with misinformation.
Because TikTok videos can easily go viral, there's also the risk that users will wittingly or unwittingly share information that's false. And once it spreads, it can be really difficult to stop.
Some people are also concerned how much hate speech goes undetected on TikTok.
And sometimes you're reading a hate comment and the stress load, it can be so much for your body and you just overwhelmed and lonely, so that can also creep into depression.
Just to emphasize how extreme this issue is, there's now a masked vigilante who is trying to track down bullies on TikTok because the TikTok moderation team have struggled to keep up with all the abuse. Now again, let's be clear, many of these problems are incredibly difficult for TikTok to deal with. And they certainly do seem to be trying. And it should also be acknowledged that the vast majority of users don't have problems like this. But that's the most worrying part. Because everyone's feed is so different, many people don't even know about the darker corners of TikTok. A parent using the app will see a wildly different feed to what their kids may see. A person who's happy will see a wildly different feed to what a depressed person would see. To summarize, the TikTok algorithm really is incredible at giving you content that will keep you watching longer, no matter how dark or disturbing that content is. However, despite all of these issues, predators, dark rabbit holes, dangerous challenges, censorship, bullying, and plenty of other problems, TikTok has become the world's hottest platform. And from a business perspective, it's a clear success story, and now one of the world's largest private companies. So, to understand how ByteDance achieved that so quickly, despite all of these issues,
run to the bathroom again real quick.
Puzzle we need to talk about. It's perhaps the most crucial piece of all.
Don't advertise on Google Ads or Facebook before blocking click fraud with Pixies. Not a fun fact. 1 out of every 4 clicks is fraudulent. Lucky you, Pixies gives you an extra layer of ad protection. It helps you secure your campaigns against bots, competitors, and click farms. It also improves your conversion rate from the very first moment of your free trial. Join over 10,000 advertisers that save money using Pixies. Start your free 7-day trial now.
If you're a homeowner in Texas and you're still paying for electricity, you could be missing out on free government assistance to go solar.
Most people don't know this, but in 2005, the federal government passed the Energy Policy Act.
This federal law granted everyday...
How does it always play an ad? Right when I start blowing glass and right when I walk away. Every time. It's watching. Oh, hi, Lucy.
Vine, an app that only allowed videos up to 6 seconds long, was created in 2012, the same year that ByteDance started.
That was a decade
Vine
ago?
got acquired by Twitter before it even officially launched. And when the app went live in 2013, they rapidly built up an active user base. Considering this was several years before ByteDance would create TikTok, Vine looked perfectly positioned to dominate the short video market. But by 2015, Vine had a big problem. All the top creators were becoming increasingly frustrated since Vine offered no way to monetize their content. The top creators felt they'd helped make Vine a success, and the Vine team was basically ignoring them. So the creators started posting Vines to direct people to their other social media instead. Concerned, the Vine team agreed to a meeting with 18 of the top creators and heard their demands. The creators wanted to be paid $1.2 million a year to post 3 Vines a week. Internally, the Twitter team were very worried about this idea. They figured if they started dishing out money to content creators on Vine, it would set a precedent, and people would start wanting money for tweets as well. But they knew losing all of their biggest content creators would look terrible, so they were considering it. Until they realized that the top Vine stars didn't want $1.2 million to split between them, they wanted $1.2 million each. And considering Vine was making a loss at this point, it just wasn't possible. So the top stars of the platform left, Vine continued to struggle for money, and by 2017, the app was officially dead. Ironically, this was the year TikTok launched. You see, ByteDance had been observing carefully, and Vine's brief moment in the sun had proven the demand for short videos, but also highlighted 2 important lessons. Number 1, don't ignore your best creators. Find a sustainable way to pay them. And number 2, don't let them get too powerful. Now, there are many reasons for TikTok's success. The vast amounts of money it spent, its powerful algorithm, fortunate timing, good management, clear strategy, a fair bit of luck, and many more. But one of the biggest factors of all was that TikTok truly focused on creators right from day one. At the beginning, they'd even invite users to the ByteDance offices to chat, get feedback, and create videos together. ByteDance had learned a lot of lessons from Vine, but the biggest of all was about building a creator economy within its app, a whole ecosystem where new creators had a real shot at going viral, and the top creators had a way to profit so they'd stay loyal. And in order to do that, TikTok figured out a way to do the one thing Vine never could: make a hell of a lot of money. Eventually, the big tech giants realized TikTok posed a serious threat to them, which is why just about every social media app launched a service that was essentially a TikTok clone. Instagram launched Reels, Facebook launched Lasso, Snapchat launched Spotlight, YouTube launched Shorts, and so on. In fact, Instagram even announced they're no longer a photo sharing app, with many articles pointing out they're trying to become TikTok. But it was too little too late. By that point, TikTok was $1 billion app. Firstly, TikTok obviously monetized with ads in the video field. But because the videos were longer than Vines, it was much easier to attract advertisers, especially because the ads look very similar to normal videos. There's just a tiny yellow ad sticker in the corner. So this means brands can make their ads look like user-generated content and get much higher engagement, as often people don't even realize they're watching an ad. TikTok can also charge higher amounts to advertisers because they have so much data about what each person likes, so the ads can be very targeted. Secondly, TikTok created a built-in creator marketplace, connecting businesses and creators together so they could make brand deals. And this was the ultimate win-win-win. For creators, it gave them an easy and direct way to make money within the app. For advertisers, it allowed them to easily find relevant creators for their brand, view their profile stats, and make a secure payment without risk of getting scammed. And finally for TikTok, it not only made their app more appealing, but also meant they could keep tabs on exactly what deals were being made and take a share of the revenue for themselves. Thirdly, TikTok monetized with sponsored brand challenges. For example, Samsung worked with TikTok to create the Video Snap Challenge, where you take 3 different pictures and it merges them into a single image. The catch is, this feature is only available on Samsung Galaxy S21 phones. So basically, TikTok have found ways to blur the lines between what's content and what's an advertisement, which means they can charge brands a lot more money. But interestingly, if we look at the Chinese version of TikTok, we can see that ByteDance have plenty more monetization tricks up their sleeve that they soon might be bringing over to TikTok. For example, tipping via live streams is a much more common thing there. There's also a feature where any user can pay to boost their post visibility to a certain audience. But most notably of all is how ByteDance is planning on disrupting e-commerce. Yep, ByteDance is not just taking on social media giants, now they're taking on Amazon. Here's how it works. Let's say you're browsing TikTok and you see a video with some cherries in it, and they look delicious. Well, TikTok will show you a pop-up with a button to buy cherries. Your payment card and address will already be registered, so you won't even need to leave the app.
The fucking one-chip challenge, like I was saying. They want me to buy it.
Since TikTok's AI can tell exactly what's being shown in a video and show you a related item that you...
I bet if I did and I posted a video doing it, that post would go viral.
Essentially, they want to blur the lines between content and shopping. And it's easy to see how this can lead to a lot of impulse purchases, since you won't need to go actively looking for things to buy. The Chinese version of TikTok reported they had nearly $30 million worth of sales using this feature on a single day in December 2018. The feature is very popular in China already and will likely become much more widely used on TikTok as well, especially because ByteDance have already entered into partnerships with big companies like Walmart and L'Oreal. But it goes further. They're even experimenting with features like food delivery within the app, proving there is endless potential ways to monetize the billions of users.
They feed you. That's a funny pun. They feed you content about food to make you hungry, and then offer you delivery service at a discount.
This focus on building a lucrative business rather than just a popular app is what separates it from Vine and many other short-form video apps that were similar but never made it. So whilst many people seem to think of TikTok as just another Vine, a fad that will come and go, TikTok is already far more successful than Vine could have ever even dreamed of. In fact, I would like to put forward to you an entirely different opinion. This is just the beginning of TikTok.
Yep.
And I'd like to tell you a short
story. Take over Twitch and YouTube.
My name is Mike
Twitch
Gray.
is up next.
I'm a film photographer and creative director based in Los Angeles, and this is how Fiverr has helped me grow my business. I started off shooting portraits of friends because it gave me the opportunity to focus on others and tell their story, and things started to move quickly in my career. When I first started out, I created a suit.
My mouse
Before we get
disconnected
to
for
the
a second.
final chapter of the TikTok story, which is honestly the most important of all, I have two things to share with you. Firstly, congratulations on making it this far in the video. In this current TikTok era, our attention spans seem to be at an all-time low. So watching 40 minutes of a single video is rare. But if you're like me and you enjoy more in-depth, longer-form stories like this, feel free to turn on notifications for this channel, as I'll be posting more mini-movies like this very soon. Secondly, I know from the comments many of you are interested in making YouTube your full-time income. But I also know that starting with YouTube can be incredibly difficult and overwhelming. So that's why I created the YouTube Business Blueprint, which gives you my famous rap artist, and it was going terribly. Nothing was working, nobody knew him, and he didn't have a record label, so was recording songs out of his nan's closets. Up until one day, where a small influencer used one of his songs in a TikTok video. That song was Old Town Road. Montero, better known as Lil Nas X, suddenly had his life completely changed. Old Town Road went viral on TikTok, with people dressing up as cowboys to fit the theme of the song. Old Town Road then went on to become one of the most successful songs of all time, and it was all thanks to TikTok. In fact, TikTok has had a real impact on the entire music industry. It's a new way for artists to get their music heard. Record companies are even paying influencers to use their songs in TikTok videos. And TikTok themselves offer an expensive service where they will craft a challenge around a specific song to help to get more people to hear it. Doja Cat is just one example of an artist whose success was masterminded by TikTok. Because of all the data TikTok have, they've also been advising record companies which songs off an album should be released as singles. Because they can see which songs users are saving most often. But this goes even further. Some artists are now even writing songs with TikTok in mind.
Yep.
Thinking about how the lyrics or music
What
will
hook
turn
or
into some
what?
kind of TikTok challenge or meme.
Yep.
Now, let's zoom out for a second. This story about the music industry highlights two things. Number one, TikTok provides an opportunity for content creators of all kinds to get more visibility than they normally would on other platforms. In fact, there's countless jobs and careers TikTok is
I have a
helping.
piece of glass in my
and many lives
foot.
it's transforming. Not to mention the billions of active users who are entertained by TikTok every day. So whilst it's easy for us to look at the dark side of TikTok, there are also countless people who have been very positively impacted by the app.
You can post one video and instantly, overnight, be viral.
It's given an insane and unexpected opportunity to a lot of young people to kind of express their opinions.
But the second thing this music example reveals, ByteDance have much bigger plans than just being a content platform. They want to disrupt everything.
Yep.
Short videos is just the start. The obvious next step is long form video, which is why
Now it's
Chinese
3 minutes
version of
long.
TikTok is allowing videos up to 15 minutes long.
15?
But ByteDance have a totally separate.
Wait, now it's 10 minutes, right? It was 3 minutes, now it's 10 minutes long. Can't you, some people upload 10-minute long videos?
Watermelon specifically designed for longer content that should not only have YouTube worried, but also streaming giants like Netflix. ByteDance have already made licensing deals with the BBC, PBS, and many more. They even hired the ex-head of Disney Plus. But ByteDance's plans are much bigger than video. ByteDance have been very vocal about entering the gaming market and have bought multiple game publishing companies already. At one point, 3 of the top 5 mobile games in China were from ByteDance. They also recently announced plans to hire over 10,000 new employees for some new education-related apps. They're even entering financial technology, cloud hosting, and search. ByteDance also already have a business software called Blog, which combines
Holy
email,
shit.
chat, video calls, calendars, and cloud document storage. They
It's
also
Skynet.
quietly launched a new division called ByteDance Plus, which sells AI to other businesses. In China, ByteDance are also doubling down on their messaging apps and have started putting huge ads for their apps all over the Chinese version of TikTok. You can certainly expect that at some point, ByteDance will start directing TikTok users to some of their many other apps and services. Because whilst TikTok was their first big international hit, it's just the beginning. It's a tool that will help them build their empire. Most people have never even heard of ByteDance and just think of TikTok as some silly short video app. But let's be clear, ByteDance already have over 110,000 employees.
About 12 minutes left on our
in
stream.
cities around the world, and are
We'll end it after
rapidly
this
into
video.
more industries than anyone can keep track of. Truthfully, it's impossible to know for sure exactly where ByteDance is heading and how powerful they're going to become. But one thing is clear: Zhang Yiming's dream of building a company as borderless as Google has become a reality.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you thought the story of TikTok and ByteDance was interesting,
It was very interesting. Thank you. Minutes left on our stream.
While they may seem like nothing but a futuristic substance from another time, marshmallows are actually one of the most ancient treats in the world, dating all the way back to ancient Egypt, thousands of years ago, when people used to make fluffy sweet treats using starch, wheat, and sap. But how exactly does something so chewy but so airy come to be? Let's find out. Collecting the ingredients. Unlike olden times when marshmallows were made with sap from the marshmallow plant, nowadays marshmallows are made from just a few major ingredients that can be divided into a few groups. First are the main components that make up the bulk of the food, which are a lot of corn syrup, cornstarch, and water. Depending upon the company, stuff like wheat flour or even egg whites may also be used. Secondly, there's stuff like the flavors, colors, preservatives, and chemical stabilizers, all to make sure that the cloudy citrus treat remains as puffy for as long as possible. And finally, there's the ingredient that holds everything together, and gives marshmallows their characteristic bouncy feel. Gelatin. Gelatin is the same substance used to make Jell-O, gummy bears, and even some jams and soups. And in all those places, it plays the role of giving things a solid, chewy, and jelly-like texture. That being said, the production of gelatin is a lot less sweet and candy-like as it's actually derived from animal bones.
Yeah, I was going to say gelatin is keratin, right?
Nonetheless, whether the ingredients are gathered from, the first step of marshmallow making begins as long as everything enters the first door. That step is mixing the ingredients. I know it's a bit of a lackluster step, but don't be fooled. Even a single bad sweet or slightly unmixed batter can greatly change the outcome of how a marshmallow is going to form. This is why a lot of companies go to great lengths to make sure that mixing conditions like temperature, speed, and moisture all remain the same. Regardless of that, this step takes place in two different stages. In the first stage, the main ingredients like cornstarch, corn syrup, and any egg whites or wheat are mixed together for a few minutes. Then, once they form a rudimentary slurry, a set amount of clean water is added, which is then both mixed and brought to a boil, and continues to mix at around 240 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooks the cornstarch or any other raw ingredients and also helps the mixture come together into one good uniform mass. That being said, to make sure no unmixed chunks of material remain in the final product, the whole mixture is passed through a strainer to remove any remaining clumps, which is the second stage. And so from here, we move on to the next one, whipping. Now, you might have noticed that we still haven't added any gelatin or any of the flavoring or chemical agents to the mix. This is because they're added once the mixture has become homogenized, immediately before it goes through yet another rough mixing regimen. And this time, instead of slow, heavy mixing, the mixture is mixed super fast, so as to aerate the whole thing, much like how you would make whipped cream. This is also why some people like to say that air is the fourth kind of ingredient that makes a marshmallow a marshmallow. This is exactly how things like macaroons are made from aerated egg whites, or how cream goes from a liquid to a thick solid mass that is still spreadable. And besides the aeration, another important marshmallow making step also takes place during this time. You see, while the mixture is thoroughly being beaten by industrial mixers, the gelatin slowly relaxes and binds the entire mixture together while also trapping a ton of air inside to create the end fluffy product, while at the same time, it also adds a lot of chew and structure to the previously viscous liquid mixture. Now, once the mixture has been thoroughly whipped until it reaches double or triple its original volume, it can be transferred to the next step, the most obvious one, the shaking. Now, if you were making marshmallows at home, at this point you would simply set the mixture aside in a pan to cool, but in a factory, the process looks a lot different. In fact, the best way to describe it would be to compare it to a pasta extruder. Using the wet mixture, once it's been cooled down sufficiently, but not too much, as to still keep it shapeable, is sent onto a conveyor belt where a ton of shapers form the entire thing into one long slab of the marshmallow mixture. This slab is then sent into a heat exchanger, where cool air is sent through the marshmallow, further making them fluffy, while also cooling the slab down but holds its shape. Then, before it can cool down completely, it's passed through a mold which turns the paste into long tubes. These tubes can be twirled around like a rope to create special shapes, combined together to make double-flavored marshmallows, or extruded as is. And almost immediately after passing the extruder, a very sharp slicer cuts the marshmallows into their signature cylindrical shape. From there, a machine dusts them with a mixture of sugar and cornstarch to prevent them from sticking together and giving them that smooth candy-like texture that we know and love. At this point, we are pretty much done, but some residual heat still remains, which brings us to the next step, cooling. Once the marshmallow pillows, as they are referred to, fall into a massive drum so they can reach room temperature, this drum also serves the purpose of mixing the marshmallows together by spinning them fast, which gets rid of excess powder while also distributing it evenly. And once they have cooled down completely, they fall onto another conveyor belt, which takes them to the next and one of the last stations, testing. Now, while the recipe might sound simple, as we mentioned earlier, a slight variation in the amount of the ingredients or mixing can change a lot, leading to gooey, sticky, or tough marshmallows. This is why before a batch can be packaged, it's checked by a few workers for a bunch of things. One of them involves what is called a snack test, where a marshmallow is cut and spread on a sheet to see how long it takes to bounce back. Packaging. Now, homemade marshmallows are not designed to have a long shelf life, but as a result of the vacuum-sealed environment and the ability to add to the mixture, as long as they remain sealed, marshmallows can stay good for a long time. And to make sure that nothing interferes with that, marshmallows are packaged in high-quality preserving bags. These bags come in the form of a long sheet, which is cut and sealed at the same time using a heated metal tool. From there, a couple of folders make it into a bag, onto which a digital scale deposits a specified weight of marshmallow. A pump then fills the bag with nitrogen, which pushes out some oxygen and makes sure that stuff stays as clean as possible for the longest time. And another pair of heated rods seal the bag immediately afterwards. From there, a printer inscribes best before date and serial numbers on the package before a carousel collects them all and sends them off to cardboard boxes where they are packed, sealed, and shipped off to retail stores. And that's really all that it takes to create something as ethereal as a s'more from just a handful of pretty simple ingredients. Somehow connecting your camping trip to the lands and traditions of ancient Egypt. Click on one of the videos on your screen right now. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
When we were a motorized bicycle company, they said, we'll never be more than that. What will they say next? Honda, the power of dreams.
Pretty popular. We take a Ruffles salted potato chip and dip that in chocolate. You'd be surprised at the number of people we have come in who buy the chips and the bacon at the same time.
Oh, it's delicious. Thank you.
In increasing numbers, candy makers are embracing the combination of the sweet and the salty. And with good reason. Our taste buds actually respond well to the mixture. You've got an average of 9,000 taste buds on your tongue, inside mushroom-shaped openings, called fungiform papillae.
Fungiform
When you take a
papillae.
bite of chocolate-covered bacon, its chemicals fall into the papillae, where your taste buds translate the chemical signals into electrical signals to your brain.
To your brain.
The sweet chocolate and salty bacon combine to send an unusually savory message.
All of the nerves that are sending messages to the brain actually work together. So one receptor will enhance the function of another. The receptor that's involved in sweet kind of makes the nerves that are sensitive to salt a little more.
Alright, friends, we are wrapping up our stream. I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me. We will be back at the same time tomorrow night or later tonight, depending on how you call those things. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Until next time, I will see y'all then.